we can get Andrew Fuller to tell us all about his companies. He's got 3 companies now. I mean, he is rocking and rolling, and they're all taking off. All right, real quick, Jim from Canada. He is our official sponsor from Care Printing and Publishing. You can find him at carepp.com. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Jim. We also got Will Fly from Will Fly PPG. He's going to be getting your names and putting on the spinning wheel of winning things, because we got some really good stuff that we're going to be giving away. We also got Scuba Steve that's going to be helping us out in the background. And of course, as always, we got Linda Anderson, our Paramom USA. Welcome to the show. But it's not about us. Today is all about Andrew Fuller. He owns SkyTap Paramotors. He owns Skylab SIV. And now he owns a new one all about inspecting our wings. Andrew Fuller, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys?
And just so you know, if you don't know, Andrew was the very first person on PPG Grandpa's Paramotor podcast 4 years ago. Then he was on the next year, the next year, the next year. And here we go. We have him on the 4th year of PPG Grandpa's Paramotor podcast, ClearProp TV and Paratalk.org. Welcome to the show, my friend. Woot, woot, woot. For those of you that don't know Andrew, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how'd you got into paramotoring?
Let's see. I started flying 11 years ago, and yeah, I opened up I opened up Sky Tap Paramotors, making paramotor frames about 4.5 years ago, and then I started Skylab Paramotor SIV 3 years ago, where we do the SIVs, and now I moved on to the whole rigging side of things. So the way I got into it was just like everybody else. You know, we all wanted to fly when we were little, and once I figured out that once I was old enough, and I was like, you know what, I can just buy my own gear, why not? So started off self-trained, then I got training from a bunch of people, and yeah, here we are.
Man, I tell you, time sure flies, just like paramotor pilots. Now you started the SkyTap Paramotors first, and you launched the SkyTap Angel, the Spartan, and you also have another one that's in the works. Is that correct?
Yep, we have a third one. I got the prototype in the garage right now. I have no clue what I'm going to call it. It'll probably be another 2-3 months before we have them out for production. But it'll fit all the way up to a 145 prop. It's swing arm frame, stainless swing arms with bearings, and all aluminum outer hoop. Yeah, I'm excited about this one. I think this one's going to be like I pulled out Phoenix. Yeah, I can't think of anything else to do on this one to make it any better. Like, it's fully adjustable with the swing arms up and down and in and out, and it is very, very strong. So we thought the Spartan was strong. This one's almost as strong as the Angel. Okay, so just for people that don't know your line of paramotors, could you tell us real quick about the Angel, the Spartan, and tell us, about the netting and how they're 500 test pound and fingers don't go through? Yeah, so the thing that comes on all our paramotor frames is we have depends on which one it is, but they have 400 to 500 pound test Kevlar netting, and it's all strung individually to each cage piece. So there's very little flex in the netting. So our main thing with the cage, what we try and do is have netting strong enough to protect you from the prop and a cage strong enough to support it. And then the other thing all of our frames come with is a quick release harness. And then the Angel was the first one we came out with, also known as the round top. That one's extremely durable. It has every single safety feature you can imagine. Great weight shift. Its only downfall is it's not the most comfortable thing on the ground, just from the way it's built. Can't really get around that without getting rid of a couple safety things. And then the next one we built was the Spartan, and that's basically a swing arm version of it. Single hoop, very, very strong. It's got the netting, got the quick release, and it has a couple other features on it, like it has ball bearings in the swing arms, which I think we're the only people to do that. And that one's extremely comfortable on the ground. And then our next one, the Paramotor with no name, is 155 centimeter cage, and it's almost as strong as the Angel, and it's very adjustable. So you can move the swing arms up or down, left or right. You can offset them. You can make them really wide for good weight shift. But Yeah, and all three of them fit on trikes. So
So the Angel is good because it's double hoop. So if you wanted to do some triking, that would be the best one. That cage will not flex at all. And the Spartan, is it good enough? I mean, it won't flex either when you're doing a forward on a trike.
it'll flex a little bit, but you're not going to get contact with the prop. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the strongest single hoop on the market.
Okay.
Um,
And then your new one is going to be just as strong as a single hoop, but I mean, double hoop, but it is a single hoop.
it's going to be stronger. It's going to be almost as strong as a double hoop from the way it's built. So it's 5 cage pieces, and whereas the Spartan's only 4, and then we made the main frame wider, so the cage pieces are shorter. That way, the cage pieces are stronger because there's less distance that it has to go out between the main frame and the hoop, and then they're angled like the cage pieces on the bottom. All the struts are angled downwards, like at the point where there's the most pressure on the cage from like a power forward. So the newest one's almost as strong as the Angel. It's almost as strong as a double hoop, and stronger than some double hoops. It depends on how you build the frame. If you just have a hoop with spokes, that can never be as strong as if you have individual cage pieces that all link together. So it's more expensive to build them that way, but you get a lot more strength out of it, and that's the only way to put that 400-pound test Kevlar netting on there. So
Okay.
There was a question, Sean, and I actually was going to ask it too. It's a good question. Bonnie Franz was asking about the weight on the paramotors. So obviously the Spartan, I've seen the Spartan. I really like that paramotor. Of course, haven't seen the other one. So the difference in weight between the two.
Spartan's 56 and the new one is 58.
That's really close.
Yeah. So it's just a little bit heavier. It's got a couple other things, like it has a motor plate on it, carbon fiber motor plate, which we use to so you can fit different engines on there without actually changing anything. And then it also, the way we do the motor plate is different from everybody else. We don't put the motor mounts between the engine and the plate. We put the motor mounts between the plate and the frame, and then the engine goes direct to the plate, and that way you don't get as much flex with the engine. Because there's 3 things that make a prop contact a cage. One is the prop flexes, and you can't do anything about that unless you get it like a helix prop is stronger than an E prop. And then the cage flexes, so we do our best to make a really strong frame. And then the third one is the motor actually moves a really good amount on the motor mounts. And the motor mounts are only like 5.5 inches apart on the Viterazzi's. Mm-hmm. But what we do is we do the engine straight to the plate, and then the motor mounts go between the plate and the frame, and they're a lot wider. And that way it removes like 1.5 inches of actually like the motor flexing on the motor mounts.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
that's a good question. I can't believe 2 pounds. I mean, and it's going to be about as strong as the Angel. That's incredible.
Yeah, and that's also with like when we weigh stuff, we include everything. Like we include the spacers for the swing arms. Like it's a lot of places when they measure like the weight, they take off like the pouches and the reserve pouch from the harness. They use lightweight carabiners. This is with the stainless steel carabiners, the reserve pouch on the harness, the side pocket on the harness. And then that's also with our 4.6 gallon fuel tank. So you can make it lighter. We have a harness that you can drop 2.5 pounds right away. An even lighter harness. So we can actually get that weight all the way down to 54 pounds. But like the way I fly it is 58. So, and that's also with the helix prop. You gain 1.2 pounds with the helix prop over an E prop. So you can get that weight like pretty far down.
Yeah, you can trim it down, I guess.
Yeah, you could really trim it down for the numbers, but that's like when people call it, they end up getting the spacers, they end up getting the bigger fuel tank. So that's the way I advertise it, is pretty much the one you're going to get.
So you also do SIV. So SIV stands for Simulated Incident in Flight. A lot of people have questions about, What is SIV? What do you do? Is it just for acro? Can you tell us a little bit about SIVs and what to expect if you do go to an SIV?
Yeah, so it's not really built around acro, but you have to do an SIV and learn the stuff in an SIV to move on to acro. So usually, what it is it's 3 phases of the course is set up in 3 phases. Phase 1 is your deflations, your your frontals, your asymmetrics, and we do those. Those are really safe, and that's kind of like to break the ice and get you used to your wing. And like a wing can have paperwork on it, it can have a certification, but until you see it and feel it on your own, you're not going to trust it as much. So we do that part. And then the second part is the negative stuff. So we do stalls, negative spins, and then we do like where you do a negative spin and you stall out of it. And that's where you're getting on like the more important stuff. And once we do the full stall, we'll teach you anything after that, because once you can full stall, you can full stall out of any mistake you make, or most mistakes that you'll make. And then the third part is the energy management. But once people hit the full stall, some people, they do the full stall and they're like, you know what, not too worried about the energy management stuff. I just want to master the full stall. So we get really into like trying to find deep stall and getting higher in tail slide and exiting slower and exiting smoother. But then the third part is your energy management, which is your spirals, your wing overs, your sats. So once you get through that course, we have a lot of guys that end up coming back and they don't take another SIV and go do the course again. They come back and they work on stuff that's more specific, like doing helicopters or doing sats, stuff like that. So we've had guys come out, they do one SIV with us, and they come out for another class and they spend 3 days just doing stalls and trying to get the parachutal down. So
what is the advantage of going to an SIV course after you become a paramotor pilot?
Oh, you learn how to deal with just about any situation you're going to encounter. You learn how to recover your wing, how to fly with your wing half deflated, how to prevent the stalls, how to get out of a stall if you actually do it safely. You build the foundation to learn acro after that. So it's, yeah.
So an SIV course is not to learn acro, it's to learn about your wing. And every time that you get a new wing, it would be kind of behoove you to go to an SIV course to see how that wing actually does in an SIV course. I went to your class and I had, I think, the Roadster 3 for the first one. And then the next time I had a Gin Vantage. Next one, I forgot what I brought, but they all performed differently, even though they were still a 28-meter wing. All of them performed differently. So what do you think about that as far as going to an SIV course to see what your new wing could do or not do?
Yeah, and it depends on your new wing, so if you go from like a beginner wing, like a beginner conventional wing, and then you go to like a reflex wing and it's a beginner reflex wing, you can come out and do the SIV on that. But if you start getting into like the hotter end, like pylon racing wings and stuff, you don't want to do an SIV on that. But what we can do is teach you other stuff on safer wings, and that will actually translate between wings. So like some of them are too spicy, and
yeah,
in certain configurations, if you're like full speed bar on like a really hot wing and you pull the deflation, it's probably going to be a reserve throw. So rather than just doing that, we work on like the finer stuff, like really dialing in stalls or really dialing in the energy management. So
okay, looks like we got a lot of questions in the super chat, Will.
Yeah, man. It's Bonnie Franz. She's coming up with some good questions. Another question for Andrew: how much does your SIV course cost?
It's $1,200. We do 1 day of ground school, 3 days of towing, and we do up to 5 tows a day, and we do minimum 3 people in our course and maximum 4 people. So you get a lot of time, and you always get all your tows. So a lot of other actually every other SIV is minimum 8 students per boat. And when you get out there, there's too much time in between your flights, or you're rushed to get them in, and you're lucky if you get 3 tows a day. But if you cut that number in half, then everything eases up. You can spend more time with the instructor in between tows. And yeah.
Okay, so it's a 4-day course, and the first day is all about ground handling.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that do for you? I mean, because
Not ground,
obviously,
it's just ground school where we just talk about what we're gonna do. We do all the questions, and we'll do stuff too. Like sometimes, sometimes the weather comes in and we get a day where we can't tow, and rather than just sitting around hoping we could fly, we'll go in and do like I'll teach people how to do reserve repacks and stuff. So we don't waste a day if we don't get to fly, or if we only get like a half a day of flying because we know the bad weather's coming in, then we'll actually have everybody throw the reserve on that day, and then we'll take you into a room and then we'll repack all the reserves so you can kind of see how it's done.
oh, okay. So you get to learn how to repack a reserve also in an SIV course.
If we have a bad weather day.
Excellent. That sounds amazing. I think there's some more questions in the super chat, Will.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question about the SIV. You ever get anybody who's afraid to go to an SIV, afraid to be there, scared of what could happen, or you know what I mean? I mean the butterflies and
Oh yeah. Well, the first day everybody's a little nervous. Like it's just the way it is. Everyone's kind of like, man, I'm about to go out there and do some stuff. And so first day everybody's nervous, and then they get through the first day, and then the second day they gain confidence, and the third day people are feeling sometimes too confident, because they just did all this stuff that they were terrified of, and they did it, and usually it's no problems. So they're like, well, shit, let's just keep going. Let's just, like on the third day, so like a lot because we get a lot of tows, and we tow really high. Like we have the fastest towboat in the whole country, possibly the world. It'll do 58 miles an hour. So I can tow you downwind. We don't have to rely as much on the pilot to get a good tow. Like I can make up for a pilot not following the boat so well. So you don't just get like 5 tows, you get like another 1,000 feet over there, over other SIVs. And what happens is you have a lot of time where we're going through maneuvers to where at the end of the day, I'll just be like, or when we're doing something, I'll be like, hey, now you're going to go up there and you're going to practice this on your own, and I'm just going to watch you. And sometimes people are like, yeah, man, everything's gone perfect so far, so I'm really going to rip it on this, and I have to be like, whoa, calm down. Let's not do that big yet. So
that's the number one thing I've heard people say after coming back from an SIV is it really gave them confidence in their equipment or their skills.
Yeah. And it'll actually mellow out a lot of people. Like some people, they come in and they're like really like they've been doing a lot of stuff before they come to the SIV, and then we go out there and we go through all the different steps, because you don't just step into something. We do all the things to build you up to it. And then once they do it, they're like, man, okay, this is what I get into if I screw it up, but my wing's hotter than what I'm using in the SIV. And they'll actually dial it back on their paramotors, which I like that a lot when people do that, when they're like, okay, I get it. This is a different environment. You got a rescue boat. There's no engine. You got reserves. And so they'll go a little harder out there, but then when they get back on their paramotor, they kind of mellow it out. And yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Cool, man. Well,
my first SIV was 6 months after flying, and I went there thinking that these little S turns were wing overs. No,
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I learned how to really do a wing over. I'm like, wow, the wing is way down there. How about that? And flat down spirals and all the stuff that I learned over there is just absolutely amazing. But just like Andrew said, after you do an SIV, once you get on the paramotor, you don't want to really do the flat down spirals and wing overs and stuff like that. It's like, you know what? I feel very confident on my wing. I feel very confident in what I'm doing. I feel confident in my gear and this wing, knowing that if there is a collapse, it's just going to go poof right back out, and I'll be safe. So I really enjoyed going to the SIV courses. I feel like I'm a better pilot because of that.
Oh yeah. I keep the free flight and the paramotoring is separate. It wasn't always that way. Like I learned a lot of acro on the paramotor, but once I got into the SIV scene, I was like, okay, paramotors, I'm going to fly those like with the ground game, nice and low. A lot of foot dragging, stuff like that. Basically like either like a jet ski or a 4-wheeler, but I'm flying. And then in free flight, it's all acro. But I usually don't, I fly them. The way I fly paramotor and PPG is, or PG and PPG is different. So.
Agreed. In your opinion, I went to your class after 6 months of flying, but on average, what do you think would be a good amount of time for a student to be able to go from learning to fly and then going to an SIV course?
I mean, we've had students come out after 12 flights and they got 12 flights in beginner training, and then they came out to our SIV and they did really well. I think if once you can like launch and land comfortably and you can kite reverse and forward and like you're confident when you go to launch, I think that's time to go check out an SIV. And then if you've been doing paramotoring for a while or paragliding for a while and you're serious about it, take an SIV. We had a guy come down and buy a frame. He was from Switzerland, and he was telling me they have to get 65 flights for paragliding certification, 65 flights and an SIV before you're signed off in Switzerland.
Wow.
And I'm like, now that's training right there. You know, like we can't do that because there's too much time. You know, you can't take off like 2 months or 6 weeks or whatever and do training. It's hard to just for people to take off 2 weeks and do training. But when he told me that, I was like, you know, like if everything was free and none of us had jobs and we could just, that's the way I would do it.
So your school is 4 days. Can you break it up to do a Saturday and Sunday, and then the next week the other Saturday and Sunday, or does it have to be consecutive?
Consecutive.
Okay.
But you can come, like once you do the SIV, you can come back and jump in on a class. So like, you know, we do 3 or 4 people, but then once you know how to hook in your own tow bridles, you've already been out there, you're just out there like more for like the practice part of it. Then you come out and I run the class as normal, and then you jump in where there's space. And yeah, you can come out for a day or 2 days.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, that's where we'll fill like a 4th spot like that, or sometimes like the 5th spot. But like when they come back out, it's a little bit cheaper, but they're also like second in line behind the first time students. So
okay, that's pretty excellent. So tonight you're going to be giving away something, and we're going to be giving away something. Did you want to talk about what you're going to be giving away right now?
Repack.
Okay, and what is that exactly? What are we talking about?
Oh, you should get your reserve repacked every year. The more freshly it's repacked, the faster it opens. So yeah, whoever wins it, just ship me your thing and I'll hang it up. You know, you let all the wrinkles get out, and then you pack her up nice and good and send her back. All you got to do is pay shipping.
So let me ask you this. You just said that you should have it repacked every year.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that somebody got a reserve and they didn't send it in that first year, and they didn't send it in the second year, they didn't send it in the third year. What would be the difference between 3 years of not repacked opposed to a freshly repacked reserve? What's the difference, do you think?
Well, especially if it's a factory pack, it'll take a long time to open. So like you'll throw it, it'll come out, and it'll just be streamering behind you, and it takes a while for the wind to get in there. It's kind of like if you've had a certain laundry sitting in your drawer for like 3 years, and you pull that shirt out and it's just crisp. The same thing happens with the reserve, where all the material is so pressed together and it fits so tight together that it's hard for the air to get in there and actually open it up. And especially when they pack them from the factories, they pack them so perfect that everything's lined up with no wrinkles, and they can actually stick together pretty good. And then if you have high humidity or it gets rained on, then that really makes them stick together. And when you repack it, it kind of shakes everything up and makes sure the material's not sticking to itself, and it'll open a lot faster.
Okay, so you're giving away a free repack today. Since we're talking about repacking, you started a new company. So you did Paramotors, you do an SIV, and now you do something else. Tell us about your new company.
I do glider inspections. Yeah, so I do the repacks, glider inspections, and glider lines. And yeah, another thing you should do every year, maybe not as necessary if you have a glider that's only a year old, but definitely like your second year, you want to get it inspected, see how much life is left on the canopy. So we test the porosity of the canopy, how well it holds air. We do ripstop tests to see how strong the fabric is. We take lines off and break them and make sure that they're within spec. And then we go through and patch up all the holes, make sure all the stitching's good, do the symmetry on the risers. So just check the whole thing out and then replace anything that needs it.
Well, that's really awesome. So if I needed a wing to be checked and I send it to you, I would ship it to you.
Mhm.
You would inspect it. You would sign off on it. But if it needed a line, you could redo the line
Mhm.
and patch holes. Anything else that you would be doing?
Yeah, I mean, we check all the risers. Sometimes they fail line break tests. And then we'll, you have to pay extra for it, but we'll reline them for you. So put a whole new line set on there for free, or not for free, but put a whole new line set on there for you. And there's all kinds of stuff that you find on gliders. Things start coming unstitched in the risers. You'll find little things in the leading edge or the trailing edge that are starting to become unstitched, and we just, put them back together. So
Andy, do any of those lines ever stretch?
yes, they all stretch or shrink. Depends. The A's usually stretch, especially on reflex wings, and the D's and C's shrink.
Huh.
And then, yes, and
I
then some
guess 'cause all
companies,
the pressures on the A's, all the
especially on the reflex wings. The reflex wings really get a lot of stretch.
So it's really who of you to get your lines inspected and your wing inspected every year, especially if you fly a lot.
Yeah, I definitely like. We've been getting a lot of ones that are failing the line break test. The canopies last a lot longer than the lines. Usually, if a glider is over 4 years old, it's going to fail that line break test. Or if you fly it real hard, like for a couple of years, and you fly it hard, it's going to fail.
Is there an hour equivalent to 4 years old, or what is?
I'd say about maybe 150 to 200 hours. Depends. If you're flying, if it's like reflex wings, they take a lot more load on the A's. So like conventional wings, like the free flight ones, they last a lot longer because the weight is distributed along the lines a lot better. But the reflex ones, and it also depends, like if your trimmer's out, then you're putting a lot more pressure on those lines too. So a lot of it depends on how you fly it. Like you can get two wings, they're both the same age. They'll both hit the same on like if one of a high kiting wing, like they use it for a lot of kiting, not a lot of flying, then the canopy goes a lot faster. But if one is flown more aggressive by a more aggressive pilot, it'll fail a line break a lot faster.
So what if we have like a line that breaks? If I call up you or get up with you, you do send out lines, and if you do, how much are those?
$25 a line and $7 for shipping.
Okay, excellent. I know that we talked a little bit about using PPG Grandpa. If you are wanting a line and you mentioned PPG Grandpa to Andrew Fuller, what can you do for us?
$20 a line.
So you get $5 off a line. And is that multiple lines? To say that I want, 5 different lines, is it $20 per line?
Yep.
Excellent. So if you need lines, make sure you get up with Andrew Fuller and tell him that PPG Grandpa sent you, and he will get you these lines for $5 off retail. Excellent. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Stuff like lines, we usually get out in a day. And then inspections, we've been able to get all our inspections out in a week. So I don't like having like sewing stuff, anything that's related to rigging or sewing sitting around the shop too long. So like that stuff I take care of first. Same with like when we do the quick release harness conversions, or people they have like a harness that's starting to come apart, they need it stitched. All the sewing stuff we do very quickly. So
excellent. It is almost 7:30, and we got two big giveaways. We're going to be giving away a Vortex Aero travel mug or a chase cam, absolutely for free. So if you want to be in this drawing, make sure you at Will Fly in the super chat, tell them that you want to be on the spinning wheel of winning things. We're going to be doing that in about 2 minutes. And we're also going to be giving away a free reserve repack for Andrew Fuller's new company. And what is the actual new company's name?
it's paragliderinspection.com.
Wow, that is amazing. Now that's a good .com. I'm kind of jelly on that one. That's a really good .com. We also have a lot of questions in the super chat, and Will Fly's been keeping that going over here. Will Fly, what's the next question that we have on the super chat?
Next one is Tony Marzano wants to know how many people are worried about gators.
We've only had one person that was nervous about, like, that was truly nervous about gators, and it didn't matter what I told him. He was sure that he was going to get targeted.
Right. How'd it turn out? I mean, is he still with us?
Oh yeah, man. He threw his reserve and he was out in the middle of the lake, and I come pulling up in the boat, and most people, they hit the water and then they forget about gators, right? They're like, so he's undoing his stuff, and he's kind of, as soon as I pull up in the boat, he just like he doesn't go around to the back of the boat and climb up on the back. No, he just comes right over the bow with all his shit on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, you could like point behind him and say, "Holy," like something's coming up.
When we first started the SIVs, I purchased one of those remote control gator heads.
Oh yeah,
but it came in from China and it didn't work. It didn't work worth a damn.
Darn it.
And yeah, so I'm gonna have to get me a good one to like come up and drop it in there and sneak up on them. But
yeah, that's awesome. Jim, did you want to?
Yeah, sure. I was just thinking though, when I've been thinking about your SIV and going in with the gators, and I go water skiing up here, and even the northern pike, it's always in my mind. One of these things is going to come and bite my hand or my foot. I don't, but I'm going to I'm going to go in with the gators for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
Tony's got another question though. He's wondering what kind of warranty comes with the SkyTap paramotors.
I mean, if it's a manufacturer defect, then we warranty it. But it's a year on the Vitarazi on the motors. But if it's something that comes apart because like it was manufacturer defect, then we just warranty it. So
sounds good.
There's JP sent us a video and I just watched it. I'd like to share it.
Okay.
That's cool with you.
Sure. If JP sent it to you, hopefully it's a good one.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched it. I'm just going to go live with it. We'll see. Let's see. Actually, that's the wrong one, isn't it?
I don't know.
Is it too small or can you see it?
I don't know. It just says log in, related videos.
Let me try it again.
Okay.
It was actually pretty cool. Let's see that. Now, can you see it?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, do you remember this, Andrew?
I do. I don't have a TikTok though.
Yeah. It's demonstrating the durability of the cage.
Yeah.
I mean, check this out. Doing a cage drag all across the field.
Who's doing that one?
That's me.
Was that you doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, that was
That's
really
you?
cool.
I know
Yeah.
that Leah did it too, and was tearing up the ground. And,
Yeah.
She got in trouble at Bad Apples. I got Joe. I don't fly at Bad Apples because I'm not allowed to cage drag. It's too many rules. I like the rules, but it's like I kind of like showing off, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I tell you what, I cage drag a lot, and one of the things that I like about it is that on nil wind days, I can gas it 100%. It's behind me. I can do a powered forward and not worry about that cage flexing at all. Matter of fact, there's no way I can reach back and get my fingers stuck in a prop, no matter if I try or not. You just can't get your fingers caught in the prop. It's really good design.
Yeah, with both our frames right now, we hardly sell any cage pieces. We finally had somebody break the chassis of the Angel. Finally, after like 3.5 years. What he did was he came in to do a wingtip drag, and he hit the wing so hard that it took like a 40% deflation, and then he rotated like his cage. He's like this. He actually rotated around backwards and caught. So he was doing a turn to the right, but he rotated and he caught the left back of the cage on the ground and ripped it forward and then tumbled. And he actually managed to break the whole thing. It was pretty impressive.
Yikes. Well, at least I learned a new lingo tonight.
What's
You
that?
guys taught me. The cage drag. I've never
Cage-
heard of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I
because
could be like, yeah.
that's
damn it.
because
Have
you
ever
can't
cage dragged
you
before?
can't do that on anything else other than an angel, you know? You do that on anything else and you're going to be tearing up your paramotor.
Oh, so you can only do it on a certain, you're like, Linda, don't get any ideas.
No,
You
no, no,
only
no,
do
no.
it on the angel.
Right. All right.
Okay.
It is 7:35, so before we continue that, let's go ahead and spin the spinny wheel real quick. This is for either a Vortex Aero travel mug or a chase cam. You just let us know what you would like in the super chat. We'll fly whenever you're ready, my friend.
Bet. Hope I got everyone.
And you guys need to be here for the free reserve pack. This one, if you just get up with me, you'll have it. No big deal. But that free reserve pack, you must be present to win. Whenever you're ready, sir, spin the wheel.
All right, I got one more in there. So I'm gonna shuffle. And
All right.
spin.
Good luck, everybody.
Good luck. Good luck.
Good
Who's
luck,
going to win?
getters.
I think it's gonna be Plainfield PPG.
Really? Let's see. David Ruff, probably. David Wolf. I don't know. They're probably going to be battling it out, I think. Let's see.
Is Plainfield PPG, is that in Indiana?
I don't know. Plainfield, are you in Indiana? Uh-oh.
Oh.
You can kind of
Go.
like the
Goldie.
motor.
Lift. Lift paramotor.
No way.
Yeah, congratulations,
All
Austin.
right.
All right, buddy. Hey,
Congratulations.
you got my number, so just text me and let me know if you want the Vortex Aero travel mug or a 3D printed chase cam. All right, we got a bunch of questions left. Will, what's the next question?
I got a question.
No, Scuba has a question. Scuba, go for it.
Well, I asked this question to David Ruff, and since he's in chat and I got all you guys here, I can get everybody's opinion. How long do you think you can store gas or mix gas before it goes bad? What's the safe range before you should get rid of that gas and get new gas?
Well, don't get rid of it because you can always put it in your generator or weed eater or something like that.
Right.
But some of the oil does tend to separate. Even if you shake it back up, it'll still be separated and could cause your motor to run kind of hot. Andy, what do you have for that?
I would say after 5 weeks, definitely do it. That being said, I've waited 4 months and gone right out there and flown. And
My gas is from last September.
Get rid of it.
I'm just saying, that's how old my gas is right now. So I'm like, yeah, I probably need to change that gas.
Well,
I do the same thing on my boat. If we go a month without doing an SIV, then I take all the gas and I put it into my truck.
Yeah, that's what I do with my paramotor fuel. Put it in my vehicle
Mm-hmm.
and then go fill up the jerry can again.
Wait a minute. Do you keep your gas separate and then oil? Because what I do is I get the non-ethanol, put it in a 5-gallon, and only when I'm ready to go out and fly do I mix my gas and oil. I have had gas, non-ethanol gas, in a tank for a long time without any issues, remixing it later on. But once it's mixed, the countdown timer is probably a month, I would say, would be safe. Andrew, like Andrew said, could be 5 weeks. It could be you could go out there in a couple months. It just really is one of those things. Do you want to chance your engine to get warm, Jim, and possibly burn a hole in it? Is that why you?
Right,
Is that why
that's
you're
what I'm
getting
worried
holes in your
about.
piston? Is that why you're getting holes in your piston, Jim? Are you using old gas?
I got holy pistons.
Holy moly.
You got
How about you, Will? How about you,
Uh,
Will? How long do you let yours sit around for?
I never let my gas sit around. It never has a chance to get old. So, I mean, I mix 5 gallons at a time and I use it, on a regular basis. The guys in the chat, Walter Priori says 3 months. Someone said a year. But I also use ethanol free gas, which is better for the not attracting the water, right? So,
Right. I wanted to, I don't even know if we got a gas station near here that has, ethanol free. I did use a high octane gas, but I mean, I just got the Paramotor and I filled up 5 gallons and mixed a 5-gallon batch. And this is still that same 5-gallon batch. So,
If it's not non-ethanol, if it has ethanol, it's probably, I wouldn't.
Right. I mean, it'll still start, but I'm like, yeah, I don't think I should go fly with this. I'm gonna get new gas as soon as it gets a little warmer outside. Fresh tank. For
Do you have
sure.
any other 2-stroke things that you could use it for? I mean, all you got to do is pour it out to another,
Yeah, I got a leaf
gallon.
blower, a chainsaw, a
There
weed
you go.
eater. Yeah, I'm good to go on that.
Yeah. Put it
Dick
in.
Ruff says you lose octane over time. Have you checked out the app Pure Gas?
No.
Yeah, it's a free app and it goes by your location and it'll point out all the gas stations that have ethanol free gas.
Oh, that's cool.
We're living in a small city over here in Conway, and we have both the Walmart that has the non-ethanol. We got Casey's that has non-ethanol. We have another gas station that has non-ethanol. I mean, it's all over the place, the non-ethanol. And it's only like 50 cents more, and it
Right.
lasts a lot better. Yeah, I mean, it lasts a lot longer in a 5-gallon jug before you mix it. Like I said, I still got some in there from last year, right? And I'm still going to use it because it hasn't been mixed.
I think that, as far as ethanol free gas goes, it's been pretty easy to find in rural areas, easier to
Right.
find in rural areas than in, urban areas. So maybe that's because of the farmers or I don't know, but apparently enough people use it.
I've never used it. I've never used avgas or ethanol free.
I have heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. Someone else said that. Who said it? I don't remember. He said he's never ever used ethanol free gas.
Yeah, I mean not
Really,
once.
if you use it regularly and you just, you keep it going, I don't see the advantage of it myself, but
Same with my boat. Like that's like forbidden in boats, and I've never put it in my boat, and that thing runs like a champ.
It's just that it breaks down the carburetor, all the gaskets in the carburetor a lot faster. I can tell the difference between a carburetor that's run non-ethanol and ethanol. I can tell the difference. After a year of running non-ethanol, everything still works great. A machine that has run ethanol, all the everything is a lot more solid. It doesn't flex well. Things leak. So it's one of those things that if you're able to spend that extra couple bucks, it does make a difference, in the
Not so much the
longevity.
yeah, for me, it's not the extra couple bucks; it's the extra couple miles to drive. That's for the boat. It's about the money. For the Paramotor, it's about driving to where you fill up your boat to get the. I'm like, drive that far.
Gotcha.
But,
That's interesting.
We're getting away with it for like a decade, so it's.
Yeah. Good question. Anybody in the super chat, let us know if you use ethanol or non-ethanol. Do you use avgas? What is your favorite? And have you had any issues with the non-ethanol? All right. Will Fly, what's our next question for him?
Jim, I think you got this one, don't you?
The next question. Has anyone used the reflex glider at your SIV course, like the Spider or some B-rated wing?
Yeah. So the reflex wings will let you use those for like the first phase, which is asymmetrics and frontals and stuff. But then once we get onto the negative maneuvers, we go to conventional wings. And then if they're doing sats and stuff, or wing overs, we learn all that stuff on our wings. And then once we know you're not going to spin it or go negative, you can go back to your reflex wing. So,
What exactly does it mean to go negative?
stalls, negative spins.
Oh.
So like if you do a wing over wrong, like you wait too late and you pull like real late and hard, instead of keeping the load up, the wing will actually like go into like a stall. And when it reopens, it's going to shoot hard. So the best way to get out of that is to stall it and then go to a tail slide and then exit. Or if you're doing a sat, if you pull too hard and pull too early, if you don't pull hard enough or you pull too late, it just does a flat down spiral instead of a sat. But if you pull too hard and you pull too early, it does like a one rotation heli, call it like a coconut spin. And it goes up over your head and spins, and then it stops, and then it's going to shoot one of the directions real hard. And if it's a reflex wing, it's going to shoot real hard. But you stall it to keep it from shooting. And then by that time, a lot of people have that stuff figured out, and it'll go over their head, it'll spin. And they're able to recognize that it's not going to shoot, like they're ready for the surge, and they'll actually just catch the surge instead of stalling out. But that's an on the fly decision right there.
Okay.
Like going negative, like you ever see those crash videos when the guy's taking off and like the wings over here, and then it goes slower and slower and slower, and then all of a sudden the wing does. That's because the wing went negative. That's a negative spin. So now you can't stall out of it when you're 30 feet off the ground, but we do stuff to help you recognize when the negative spin is. So one of the things we do after you do full stalls is we'll have you, and what causes that on takeoff is the prop is torquing to the right. They're trying to weight shift to the left, but they have their butt on the wrong side of the seat. So they're actually weight shifted to the right. So they're trying to compensate the prop torque and their weight shift with left brake, and they slow the glider down to where it's not moving fast enough, and then that's when it goes negative. So the way we simulate that in the SIV after you do stalls is we have you weight shift really hard to one direction and then pull opposite brake, and it'll go slower, slower, slower. And then the wing, when you're doing a spiral, the wing is flying like this. When it goes negative, it'll go like this. So it turns the forward motion and it goes like this. And you can actually feel it like bite and go to twist. And when it goes negative, and you can let your hands up and it'll just go whoop, and then it'll fly out. Had you held it like a half a second longer, it would just go into a negative spin. And then if you don't put your hands up fast enough, then you have to stall it and get out. But that's one of the things we do to help people recognize what that negative, like what like a pre-negative spin feels like, and then what it feels like right when it goes negative. Because if you catch it quick enough, you can fly out of it. If you catch it too late, then you need to stall out. So.
All right. Next question, please.
You've got got quite a few. Some are just comments. Do students have 1 or 2 reserves at the SIV course?
Mandatory 1, 2 if you want it.
Cool.
So you usually got a reserve in the back, and if they want a secondary front mount, they can have a secondary front mount. And it also depends on the student, and it depends on what they're doing. So
Well, that makes sense if they're doing more dangerous stuff. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. David Ruff made a comment. He said, man, those 5,000 or those 5K toes were amazing, and how confident I felt after the class in thermals, bar none, A+. So cool. And then Jeremy asked, is anybody ask Andy about his bar tacker? He loves that thing.
I do love that thing. That's my favorite sewing machine. That's what I do all the work I can with that bar tacker, unless I have to use something else. But yeah, it's the strongest stitch. Basically, it does a straight stitch this way, and then it zigzags over it, and then it does a straight stitch this way, and then it zigzags over it.
I've seen your sewing machine. I'm sorry, man. I've seen your sewing machine. It's amazing. I mean, that's like a heavy duty. You brought it to Bad Apples, I think, one time.
Yeah.
Bonnie asked earlier, what is the SAT? I mean, does SAT stand for something? Is that like sudden acro turn, or is it that's just the name?
Yeah, I think that's up for dispute. Like the Swiss say it's Swiss acro trick. It's like they were like the first people to figure it out. like people knew you could do a sat because if you screw up real bad, sometimes you'll end in a sat, right? Like if you take a really big deflation and it sticks in there, you can do a sat. But they were kind of like, how the heck do we actually enter it from straight and level flight? You know, because they've only seen it happen to people when this is, 30 years ago. So apparently the Swiss were the first people to figure it out. So they call it a Swiss acro trick. And then some people call it a stupid ass trick. Because yeah, it actually doesn't accomplish anything except for showing off. But that's the main thing that a lot of people want to learn. So like in the SIV, like if you get all the way up there, like the sat's usually one of the things that people ask about. But it's like I think the most important thing you can do in the SIV is a stall or learn how to stall. And the next one is the reserve throw. And people, after all this stuff people will do, it's the reserve throw that makes people nervous because the entire SIV in your entire flying career, you have control of the wing. And then when you're doing a reserve throw, you have to like abandon control of that wing and then throw out your laundry and then disable the wing. So it's counterintuitive, but I've seen some like real high end pilots that are like doing really well in the SIV and it comes time for the reserve throw. And they're like, man, I'm a little nervous about this one. It was like, really? After all the stuff you've done? But yeah. So I say it stands for Swiss acro trick. I don't think it's that stupid. No.
Cool.
Okay. So I know that a lot of people are, that may or may not have pulled their reserve. Here is a quick video where I was at the SIV course and I was explaining, if my computer is not going to chop up on me, is how long does it actually take to open up? And I may not have enough bandwidth to do this, and it doesn't look like I do. So what I'll do is I'll just share the link in the super chat. What else? What other questions do we have for her?
You've got David Wolf says, could you please ask Mr. Fuller what happens when he calls me from his cell phone?
Oh man, I just did it again.
Don't you back the island?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I accidentally put this in or if somebody else actually did this to my phone, because I have heard that there's another name in there that I haven't dialed yet. That's Kirk Pfister's number. So I think somebody else put it in my phone because I actually spelled his name correctly, or I wouldn't spell his name correctly. I wouldn't put the E on the end, but I've called Pfister twice trying to get a hold of David Wolf. And the second time was like not even a week ago. And I was being lazy. So I type in, David, and then it comes up and then I check my messages to make sure it's the right one. And this last time I was like, I just called it. And as soon as it rung, I hit the cancel button and I was like, let me check the messages. And before I could even get into my messages, the phone rang back. He's like, who's this? And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, is this Wolf or is this Pfister? Because Wolf can do like a Kirk Pfister impression.
Right.
And I'm sitting there like, so I'm like, is this Pfister or Wolf? And he's like, what? And I'm like, oh man, is Dave messing with me? And then I was like, all right, look, man, I'm sorry. I just did. Then he's like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, nothing. I don't want anything, man. I'm just, I'm going to change your number to the correct name in my phone now so this doesn't happen again. But yeah, I actually call Kirk Pfister sometimes. Because he was, he was doing a fly-in like 4 years ago or 3 years ago or something. And like before that, he was like, if anybody has a frame that they want to bring up and have me do a comparison on, I'd be willing to do it. So that's how I had his number. I was like, I want you to do a comparison on my frame, which he never did. And I even like the one I was going to bring up there, like he doesn't like clutches. So I had one that didn't have a clutch. So I was kind of like, I think I got, it's lighter than what he's got. So I'm like, I think I got all my bases covered here. I really want to see him try and pick this thing apart. And as soon as he found out what I was up to, he was all about me coming to the fly-in. But as soon as I was like, I want you to do a review of my frame, then he just ghosted me. So but I still talk to him once a year when I try and call Wolf, but not anymore. I changed the number.
Oh,
That's
man.
hilarious. More questions, I assume.
Jim,
Will?
any other questions?
Yeah, Plainfield PPG was wondering where is your SIV class held?
It's in Lake Kissimmee and Tiger Lake, which is about 20 minutes outside of Lake Wales.
How big is Tiger Lake?
Tiger Lake isn't that big. I think it's a mile across and 2.5 miles long. And then Lake Kissimmee is like, I don't know, 20 miles across or something, 10 miles across. It's huge. We've only used like 10% of the lake on Lake Kissimmee. So there's no excuse not to get a high as hell tow. Because if they're not high, you just keep going, just keep driving, just keep going further out.
You don't run out of room.
Nope, not on that lake. And the good thing about our boat being so fast is on the smaller lake, we can, like, the key is what's hard to do is to come and tow back downwind. So like a lot of boats, they can only go into the wind and they have to zigzag or run like an L-shaped pattern. And ours, if it's blowing under like 8 or 10 miles an hour, I can actually go out and then come all the way back in, and you get a really high tow, and then everything's like positioned perfectly. And I'm rewinding the line like maybe 100 yards from where the next student's lining up. So
Yeah, and a lot of people that don't fly very high, your first tow is probably going to go up to a mile, about 5,000 freaking feet, which is a lot higher than most paramotor people actually go fly. And when I went there the first time, I never really went more than 2,500 feet. So when I went out there for my first SIV, I doubled my height, and looking down was like, wow, I'm so high.
yeah, and we get you there real fast too. It's like 8 minutes to get you all the way up. So it's climbing out way faster than your paramotor will do. But
8
guys,
minutes?
oh yeah, 8.5 minutes.
Because I went to 5,000 on the hang glider, but it was being towed up, and it took a while to get up to 5,000 feet.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
I kind of pride myself in like my towing. Like every tow, I'm like, come on. It's like a personal thing. I don't know, you ever seen that movie like Ford versus Ferrari, where the guy's chasing the perfect lap? Like that's what I think of. Like I'll come around on like the last turn, I'm coming in, and I've got like just enough line left to make it to the edge of the lake. And if I pull in and like the red line just starts coming out, I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know what? That was the perfect lap right there. Did it again. Well, you guys were asking earlier about people being scared. There's two people that really stuck out for me. One guy was like, I thought he was joking. He was like, I just want to do big ears. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm going to tell you everything, but we'll do that first. First tow, he went up, he did big ears, he landed. Everybody else went. We got back to him. I'm like, all right, man, suit up. And he was like, nope. That was all I wanted, man. I was dead serious. Big ears. That's all I wanted to do.
That was it?
That was it. That was all he did. And the second one was, I was towing this guy up and he just pinned off. Or no, he was getting towed up by the tow tech and he pinned off at like 500 feet. I'm like, okay, like maybe the weak link broke or something. He landed. We're like, are you all right? You got to go a little higher. And he's like, can I go up to like 1,000 feet maybe and then do stuff? And I was like, no. We stop moves at 1,000 feet. So we get him up like around 800-900 feet and he pinned off again. And so I figured out like when he was under tow, if I talked to him on the radio, like, hey man, everything's good. So I'm driving the boat now and I'm like, we're just going to maintain this pressure. I'm not going to give you any more pressure. And I start dialing up the pressure, and I'd be like, hey, I'm just going to tow you over here. You're probably only at 1,500 feet. And he's at like 2,500 feet and like rounding this. But if I talked to him throughout the tow, he was fine. Like if I took like 25 seconds off from talking with him, he'd pin off.
What does that mean, Pat? Can you explain, like people like me? Okay, so the pen off, what does that mean? And also the big, what did you say? The wing?
Oh yeah, big ears is when you
What they mean?
Yeah, you just flap in both wingtips. It's
Like
real
go
stable.
down.
Yeah,
You
you're
go
flying and you just pull them in, and nothing happens, and then you let them go and they come out. as mellow as it gets.
What's the pin thing?
And off is when you release. So the
Oh,
pilot,
he kept releasing on
oh
his
yeah,
own.
he would release either at 500 feet or unless I stopped talking to him.
Gosh, yeah.
So
No wonder you
he had a really good SIV though. Like he had a real good SIV, but it took like we had to figure out how we were gonna, because actually the first day on that SIV, the weather wasn't that good. Like the wind was blowing really strong up high. So what we did was we just had each student do 2 reserve throws because the wind was mellow at like under 1,000 feet, but over 1,000 feet it was blowing strong. So we did that the first day, and then and we had figured out that he didn't like being very high. And then so the second and third day we talked with them. We were able to get him up nice and high. I didn't pull him up as high as everybody else. But it was high enough to get everything done. 3,000 foot tow is normal normal for SIVs. We usually do 4 and above, 4,000 feet and above.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering about that. So,
Yeah, just the release. The pilot can release whenever he wants.
oh,
We recommend hanging on till the top because altitude's the name of the game. But
because basically when you're pulling the boat and all that, you're the boss, not them when they're up in the air. Because you gotta be concerned for their safety and everything too, right? Because some you get up there and they're brave or they're trying to be really brave or whatever, and then you're like, nope, no, not yet, or you know what I
yeah,
mean?
if they don't want to do something, they just do a big year. So
Oh, okay.
you have big years, and then you have one big year, which means no, or hold on, or something's
Oh,
up.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes,
Interesting.
sometimes people get tired. Sometimes they do it once and they're like, yeah, I'm good. Let's move on. Sometimes they don't hear me, so they do a big year.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Hey, Mad Sloper was wondering, can you do dolphining, beeline stalls, and asymmetric spirals is there a preset curriculum for Andy's course?
There's a couple, once you hit the stall, it's whatever you want to do. So the dolphining we call porpoising. And yeah, we'll do that one. And we'll also, like, once you get past the stall, we'll do this thing called the whip stall, which is when you pull on the brakes and then you let the glider, then you go hands up and the glider surges. And then when you swing back underneath it, when it goes to shoot forward again, you pull brakes, and make it go a little deeper. And then you go hands up. And the idea is to go so far back that when it surges forward, it actually frontals, and it's a real frontal.
So you said you got 3 stages to your course, right? Or is there 4?
There's 3.
So on the 3rd stage, does that require a reserve throw?
That the reserve throw comes whenever that's convenient.
Whenever it's convenient. I was just wondering, did you do the reserve throw before you move on to like acro stuff and all that?
No, we do the reserve throw, like, if it's not that good weather on the first day, we do the reserve throw. Let's say you come out, let's say you get tangled up in something and then you come out and you're flying all good, but you're not going to make it back towards shore. Then rather than you just fly into the water, we say, hey, we're doing the reserve throw now,
I got you.
Yes.
Cool.
And then if you get through the course and the water's not too cold, or you're from up north and the water is cold, if you get all the way through it and you haven't thrown it yet, then you throw it, like, usually last tow. But sometimes we like to get that in. If people are like sometimes, and we don't have everybody do reserve throws at the same time. Like sometimes people do 3 tows and they're like, man, I'm a little tired. I don't want to do the 4th tow. I don't want to do the 5th tow. So I'll be like, hey, why don't I just tow you up to like 800 feet? You throw your reserve, then we dry out your gear, and then that part's out of the way, and we don't spend another tow doing that. But then the other question they were asking about beeline stalls. We do beeline stalls and we do horseshoe, which is when you grab the inner, you have your 3A lines. If you grab the innermost, both innermost with one hand, and you actually climb up it, and the whole wing folds in on itself like this, and then it's a real smooth altitude descent technique. We do those 2. I don't recommend those as altitude descent techniques because it's not that good on the glider. But the reason we do those is to prepare for the stall. So your deflations, like your frontals and your asymmetrics, is one feeling. And if you get nervous and you pull the deflation, you let up on the deflation, nothing happens. But a stall is one of those maneuvers where there's a moment, like right when you stall it, when the glider's behind you, that you have to hold the brakes down until you get underneath the glider. And then if you let up, you're going to be okay. But there's a half a second area right there. Whereas if you don't hold it down, it'll shoot on you and you can jump over it. You can high five the glider. So the reason we do the beeline stall to make sure that you're going to listen and that you're not intimidated and that we're on the same page. Because the beeline stall, you reach up, you grab the bees, you pull those down, and then you hold them. And I execute the beeline stalls with the same commands as a full stall. But if you do the beeline stall and right when the glider tacos, you release it, then we got some more training to do, because if you were to do that on the full stall, you'd get in trouble. But if you pull the beeline stall and you hold it, and then you just hold it there while I'm telling you to hold it, and then when I say release, you release, then you trust me, I trust you, we can move on to the full stall. So it's not one of the things we teach for like an altitude descent technique. We teach it as like, there's no way to bridge from the asymmetrics and frontals to the negative maneuvers. In a perfect world, like if fear didn't exist, the first thing I would do in an SIV is tow you up. And if the gear dried instantly, the first thing I would do is tow you up and have you throw a reserve. Then the gear magically dries. And the next thing I would do is teach you how to full stall. And then we would do the rest of the course the way it was kind of laid out. But the full stall is too intimidating. So you have to do the first phase to make sure everybody's on the same page and make sure all the commands are working. And then even that's not enough. Then we do like the beeline and the horseshoe on one toe just to kind of prep you for it and make sure that everything's lining up. So
I saw when Sean was trying to do his stall, was he just weak, or because he was trying to pull the bees down, he was the whole video.
So for those of you that don't know, the story behind this is that at the end of 2017, I had heart surgery and a stroke as a complication. I was getting better over the course of 2018, and then 2019 is when I learned how to fly and I went to do his SIV. So I was still weak everywhere because of the stroke thing. But now going over there, it's like, no problem. I can do pull-ups on it. So it was just, I was still weak because of the stroke thingy. But yeah, it's still difficult. I mean, you don't know. It's really hard for you to imagine how much tension are on those lines. And when you try to do your first, stall, A-line stall or B-line stall or frontal, it's a lot of work. And then immediately, as soon as you let go, it just opens up. So you really trust your equipment after that.
Yep, there's actually a thing that we added after your SIVs. It's a different way of stalling. So we still teach the tail slide one, but we don't always go straight to the tail slide. So what we do is you bury the brakes, just like you always do. And the glider falls back and then you come underneath it and then you're in full stall. And you can actually, once you pass that point, once you're underneath the stall glider and you're not in front of it anymore, believe it or not, if you throw your hands up, you'll fly out of it. So what we do is we teach, you bury the brakes, and then I'm like, okay, full stall, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. You're in full stall. And then I say, check release. And you come up to your chest, and then you go hands up. So you go boom, boom. And the glider opens up partially and then opens up all the way. And it actually exits really smooth. But yeah, we actually started doing that way after you came down, because it was like, it's really like, it can be hard to hold those brakes down, and if it's jerking on you and there's no way for you to communicate to me mid stall that like, hey man, I don't think I can pull this tail slide thingy off. Right. And then, but you can check release and come out nice and smooth rather than trying to come up with your hands and then having it actually pull a hand out. So
yeah, I've never felt so destroyed after the SIV course. I mean, I know that I could have still went up. I mean, we went what 3, 4, or 5 times or whatever. At the very end of the day, he said, "Hey, come on up. Let's go do another tow." And I'm like, "Man, everything's cramped up. I'm so sore. I don't have any more energy." And it seems like a lot of people are like that at the end of the day. It's like you have time to go do another tow, but you're just wore out.
Yeah, and then like times like that, like if you're only 3 toes in and you're exhausted, that's when we'll do like a reserve throw. But like for me, I can only do 3 toes. I can do more, but after 3 toes, I start getting worse. Like I'll be like, all right, 3rd toe was great. The 4th toe, I'm gonna hit everything perfect, and then I'm actually worse on my 4th toe, and then I'll go back up because I'm pissed, and I'll do a 5th toe, and everything will go to. I'll have even less control, and it's like just call it. So, but the other thing that wears people out is it's not actually the toe can get you a little tired, but also just like the intensity of doing something new. You're sitting there going, you got 8 minutes of being like, oh God, here we go. We're going to do that thing, and it's 8 minutes all the way up. Like,
and if you've never been towed behind a boat like that, it's the most crazy feeling you've ever felt, because as he's making that big turn, going straight, it's no big deal. But as he's making that big turn, now your wing is turning like this, and you're pulling as hard as you can to stay underneath that wing, and you're going straight with this wing all sideways like this. You're like, this is weird. But it is very interesting nonetheless. The whole thing is definitely worth it. Definitely need to go do an SIV course if you haven't. You learn so much. It is 8:10, just turned to 8:11 p.m. Central Standard Time. So let's go ahead and do that spin for a free reserve pack. And we will continue this interview after the spin, because man, you still learn so much, and still haven't even talked to you much about your new business. It's all about the SIV, which is really awesome. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Will, we'll go ahead and do a spin, and this is for the free reserve pack. If you don't have a reserve, can they use it later on? Can they just hold on to that free reserve pack until they get a reserve?
Well, if they don't have a reserve, they should buy one immediately and then send it to me a year later. Yeah. Gotta fly with the reserve. Yeah.
Excellent.
We have got a ton of questions in the chat too. They've been burning it up, Sean.
Your wheel thing, I can't see the spinny wheel. I just see like the top part.
Let's see. Let's try it again.
All
Took
right.
took me 2 times last time. There we go. Nope. Yeah, here. Is that better?
There we go. I see it now.
Okay.
All right. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle.
Shuffle, shuffle.
Do the truffle shuffle.
And
this is from paramotorinspection.com.
Cool. Look at all the chatters. Hi, chatters. Thank you for joining us tonight.
How many people we got
John
watching?
Wayne. I can't see it now.
How many people we got watching right now? I can't see.
A lot.
40 watching and 16 thumbs up.
Excellent.
Oh, is it
There's
geriatric
David
or
Wolf,
lift again?
Geriatric PPG.
Yeah, I think it's going to be.
Looks like John Wayne's going to win it.
Oh, that's so close.
Yay!
I was right.
John Wayne, congratulations, buddy.
Right on, man.
Cool.
Did Austin ever tell us what he wanted? Or was there a choice?
He can just text me. We chat on the phone a lot, so just text me and let me know what you want. It's no big deal. Hey, since you got all the names up there, can you say hi to everybody that's on on the list? Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Well, I know John Wayne has a reserve too, because you can see it in his videos. He's got a reserve in front, so it went to a good person.
Absolutely, good deal.
Hey, did Plainfield PPG ever say if he's in Indiana?
Oh, yeah. Plainfield PPG. I'm sorry if you.
If he's in Indiana, I got somebody for him.
Cool. Cool. So to our chatters, we got James in the house, Greg Laney, and hold on a second. David Couch, David Wolf, Geriatric PPG, Lift Paramotor, Stephen Goodpaster, Flying Flamingo Jade, Never Trust a Skinny Chef Shane, Walter Priori, Boss Walter, Bonnie Franz is in the house, David Ruff, Brian Franz, John Wayne, Tony Marzano, Jeremy, Matt Sloper, Charlie Wash, Travis DuPont.
Hi, Charlie.
PPG. I think I got Jeremy in there twice, maybe. I think I do. Maybe not. Yeah, no, I do. A-Lines, what's up? JP Tulo, what's going on, man? Joel, Adele, Angela Preslick, Deweese Milstead, and Goldie Teal.
Deweese, much love.
Oh, I see somebody without glasses. I know what that means.
Uh-huh.
That means I need to put on my glasses.
All right.
Hey, Andrew.
Gotta do the thumbnail, everybody pay attention.
Never Trust a Skinny Chef Shane wants to know if you're going to that new fly-in this year.
One.
Yeah, it's Flight for Gauge, and that is in Bowling Green, Florida. in
Oh,
June.
he sent me something about that. That's
Yeah.
that's next weekend, I think, right?
No, June.
June. Oh, yeah. That's far enough out. It's in Florida. I'll be there with all the sewing machines and everything.
Right on. I'm going to be bringing my wing to you. All right.
Awesome.
So, are you ready?
Ready?
1, 2, 3. We got it.
Excellent day.
Thank you.
Linda takes off her glasses. I got to put on my glasses.
Andy,
See-
are you gonna be going
See how
out to
You see
Arizona
who
or
the PR is here, right, Andy? You see who runs the show. You know what I'm saying?
I see that.
I keep them all in line, and when it's time to do thumbnail, that's the only way they pay attention to me. Otherwise, I'm messaging them, whatever. But yeah, it's all fun.
Zach Gannon just joined us, and so did Wiggy Wing. What's up,
Andy,
guys?
will you be going to Arizona or California this in a week or two?
That's just too far to pull that toy hauler.
Yeah.
I keep saying next year, and I'm like, okay, I don't have to do it again next year. I really want to go to that Arizona flying circus, though. I've heard only good things about that.
Where's the best place to buy a reserve? And should you mount it in the front, or is the side more preferable?
So I like them in the side because I use the quick release harness.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And I've never thrown a reserve in combat, but I have quick released out twice. The front is significantly easier to find.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I mean, I've just heard the horror stories of people's reserves accidentally going off while they're flying. That would be bad, right?
Yeah, you got to check your pins.
Yeah.
Like the free flight guys, before they launch, part of their pre-flight inspection that paramotor guys don't do is they actually look and make sure that their pins or like their weed whacker line is through
Right.
those holes and everything. Because an accidental deployment can break your back.
Ouch.
Because if it accidentally deploys, it's going to do it when you're right after you take off, usually. So I know a couple people that's happened to, but I prefer it on the side. But and that's like the front mount one is a lot easier to find, and it's actually easier to throw. The way I throw the front mount ones is I grab it and I pull, and then when it breaks out, I just in one motion throw it. So it's actually faster too.
And with it being in front, you have two hands. You can grab it this one and throw, or this one and throw. If you got one only on the left side and maybe you're all tangled up and you can't reach down, then how are you going to really get to it? So if you're going to have a side mount, get one on each. I personally like the front mount because I fly many different paramotors, and it's just easy for me to grab my reserve and put it on anything that I fly.
Yeah, you can still
That's-
get out. Like, yeah, we had a guy with one of our quick release harnesses, and he went into the water, and he had a front mount, and he just reached underneath the front mount and pulled his release and got out. But it's also, I care a lot about convenience, and the front mount's just one more thing to hook in. Like I really like to just get in my paramotor and go thing. So especially with the quick release, I can get in really quickly. it's just as fast in as it is out. So I really like that, like pop, 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 start the motor, get up and launch it. I almost try and launch fast just because I think it's so cool that we can launch so fast.
Well, you also been flying for an awful long time too, so you know how to do that. New pilots probably shouldn't go very fast. Do your checklist and be very cautious and careful.
Yeah, well, I should probably say, when I set everything up, like I said, I don't usually walk out there with my paramotor on my back and then hook into my paraglider. I usually walk my paramotor out first while it's warming up, and then I bring out the paraglider, and then I hook everything up, and then I get in and everything's hooked up. Then I just get in and then go.
I do too, and it's really awesome to have a machine that does it. In the SkyTap Angel, that's one that you can pull out there on its skids, clip it all in and stuff. Look around, and when you are ready, then you sit down, clip in, and then you stand up and go. Matter of fact, I've done a lot of videos to show that I don't have the weight of a paramotor on my back, but for a maximum of 60 seconds. Once I lay out my wing, I clip into the paramotor, then I sit down in the paramotor, lean forward, start it up, make sure I get on my checklist, stand up, ready to go. I take off, and it's on my shoulders less than 60 seconds.
Yeah, I think another reason, like I do that, you probably do that too, is for like, I don't like to break a sweat before I fly. If I have to if the last thing I do is hike my paramotor out, like 100 yards across the field, then I break a sweat and then I start flying around at 40 miles an hour. And if it's a little colder, then I get cold. So it's like, I like to be in like the same heart rate and like, perspiration, I guess, on the ground as when I'm flying. So like, I'll take my time getting my stuff out there to the field, but when it's go time, it's go time. So, but
and
yeah,
that's why I like the light trikes too. You don't have to have anything on your back. You just sit down and it's very comfortable.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it sounds like it's a no-win situation because you're afraid of your reserve deploying, and then when you throw it, you're afraid that it's not going to open. So I mean, it's like you can't win with these things. But I mean, it's David Wolf was talking about the guy who, he just threw it. It opened at his reserve opened at the very last second and saved his life. I can't remember where I saw that video, but it was not too long ago. So he's saying, yeah, throw it no matter what, even if you're low, because you never know.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the video. I just posted one a couple months ago where a guy was like 35 feet off the ground and he threw it and it was open by the time he was 25 feet off the ground.
Yeah. And there was another one where the guy threw at least 2 reserves, and the first reserve didn't open, and the second reserve, he might have even thrown 3 reserves. The third one finally opened.
Yeah, the second one he pulled up.
Yeah. I mean, that was just like, that's some hairy stuff. When you're doing the stalls in the SIV, does it ever get to the point where it feels like you're free falling?
No.
So
there's right. So it's like brakes, and then the glider goes whoop. And then from here to here, and as soon as it happens, it's over. You feel slightly weightless. You're not weightless, but you feel it from here to here, and that's it. And then when you're in full stall, so we have them hold it in full stall and hold it for like to desensitize them. Because the first are like, holy crap, and it's bucking. And then you're in full stall, relax. And they're kind of like, oh yeah, everything's good. And you're coming down at like the same speed as you are under a reserve throw when you're in so there's just the initial whoop, and then you're just coming down. So I remember I've had people tell me this too, but I remember when I did my first full stalls like 6 years ago, I remember I was in full stall and I felt, after I stalled it, I was like, I feel good. And the instructor's like, start bringing your hands up. And I'm like, but this is good. If you were to hit the water in a full stall, it's very slow. If you're really low, if you're truly too low to throw your reserve and the glider's negative and you're in full stall, then just ride the full stall on the ground. That's going to be safer than letting it up and letting it shoot and then throwing your reserve. So, and then tail slide's way slower than a reserve throw because you actually have some forward movement. It's actually not forward movement; it's backwards. So, I mean, you're coming down really slow in tail slide. And if you get that tail slide really high up, you're almost not losing altitude. Like you can get all the way to where you're in parachutal, which is when the wings open but not flying. And it's hard to maintain it there, but you're coming down like extremely slow, probably like maybe 2 meters a second. If you're in a good tail slide.
And most
Reserves are
5.5 meters a second.
Yeah, unless if you get anything steerable, because they have forward motion, you can get that down to like 3.5.
Yeah, and I got a beamer and it's steerable, and you can also flare at the very end. So when you're going down, you're going to go down and touch down lightly like a butterfly. And that's what Grandpa wants. I don't want to be landing at 5.5 meters a second. What is that? 12 feet a second? That's like jumping off a house. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's like 17 feet a second. It's 16 and a half feet per second. It's all in butt. There's a new reserve out called the Cortel design, and it's a square steerable. And so it has like a 1.5 glide ratio. So it just moves forward just enough to give you a little bit of forward motion to cut your glide down to like 3.6 meters a second.
And what was this called again? I want to write this down and figure this one out. What is it called?
Cortel design.
Is that a C or K?
I think it's a K actually.
Is it?
And then it's barely steerable. So like if a reserve is too steerable, sometimes that can get you into trouble. This one's just enough to like maneuver yourself away from that thing you don't want to hit, and it has just enough forward movement to drop to make your sink rate really low. Whereas like a beamer has a lot more glide, which can be really good. Like if it comes out, it's not twisted, everything's working great, that's ideal. If it comes out and it's twisted and it starts heading off the direction you don't want to go, you're gonna go there a little faster. But a lot of times when like the beamer 3s, if they come out twisted, a lot of times you just fly in a circle. So, which is okay, because the idea is to hit where you want. Oh, here we go.
So what are we watching right now?
Full stall. He's trying to find the tail slide. He's pretty much got a tail slide right now. He's not tucking his feet. He's kicking them all over the place. And he's out with a little cravat. So right now he should wait, shift left, pull left brake. Oh, he restalled it. And he's still got to tuck those feet. Not tucking them. Wait, shift left, pull left brake. Now, yeah. And because he's gone around, I was going to say, yep, time to throw. Because once you go around 3 rotations, time to huck it. So, yeah, once you go around 3 rotations in a spiral, I say it's time to throw.
And there's nothing wrong with throwing a reserve if you need to throw a reserve. It's better to throw a reserve and land hard and be alive than to try to shake this thing out all the way to the ground. So Don't be afraid of throwing a reserve. It's designed to save your life.
Yeah, nobody ever gets it. When you throw what you should do when you know somebody that throws a reserve is next time you see him in the bar, you buy him a beer. Because you never give anybody a hard time for throwing. You don't know what they saw, and if they're playing it on the safe side, then that's good.
Exactly.
So I was on mute. You probably didn't hear what I said, but Dave Wolf's, did you hear me say that about, he sent it to me, he was wanting to know if that's what you were referring to. But if this guy hadn't, if he wouldn't have thrown his reserve with what he had there, he still would have been okay, right? Landing in the water.
He would have been okay. He would have gotten a bunch of water up his eyes and in his nose. He didn't even sitting there going, shit.
Yeah.
But and that looked like a relatively mellow wing. But I mean, there's certain wings, like an A wing in a flat down spiral is actually not that bad. Now, like an acro wing in a flat down spiral, you'll pass out.
Really?
Yeah. And if you hit the water in a flat down spiral on like an acro wing, like you're hitting it like 75 miles an hour. Ouch. It's not the down travel, it's you swinging around outside the glider. And acro wings have way more power and way longer lines. So, like if you're traveling around the outside of the glider and you're only this wide as opposed to this wide, out here is going to be twice as fast because you're spinning the rotation is the same, but you're so much further out that the actual speed you can clock in at 75 miles an hour on the outside.
Because you're further. Yeah. To make the same rotation, you have to travel faster.
Yeah. And you like when they say like you can pass out in a spiral, like I remember for years of flying like conventional beginner wings, I was like, man, I don't really see like the G's that they're talking about, like the build that they're talking about. Then you get on an acro wing and you're like, oh yeah, no doubt in my mind. Like it's a completely different animal.
How do you get out of a spiral if you're locked into it or you feel as though you are?
Opposite brake, but you got to be mellow with the opposite brake. You can't just rip opposite brake. But it also depends. Like let's say you go flat down, and usually that's because you're pulling inside brake. But if you let off that inside brake really slowly, then it doesn't jolt the glider, and a lot of times it'll stay in that spiral. Or if it's a beginner wing, it will exit that spiral if you go hands up, but it'll exit it after doing 5 more rotations, which is not ideal. So what you want to do is bring your hand up quick. The inside hand, you bring that up quick, kind of jolts the glider. It'll make you exit quicker. Ideally, you want to pull a little bit of opposite brake, but not too much, because you can flip over the other side. But let's say you're locked into a spiral and you're pulling outside brake and it's not working. And if you're on an acro wing and you just pull outside brake, not a lot of times, but it cannot do anything. Like if you're really locked in and then you pull both brakes and you just slow the whole program down and then you can exit.
Okay, so you try basically worst case scenario, you try and stall it equally.
It's not a stall, it's so loaded. Like when you can pull really hard and you're like, and that's all you're getting, but it'll slow the wing down enough to where it relieves a lot of that pressure and a lot of that G force. And then once there's not as much G's, you can actually exit it.
Okay.
I have real quick questions since you do inspections on wings. I know that on a standard regular wing, we have a Kevlar core with a nylon sheathing. Now I've heard on high acro wings, some really good acro wings, that the core is different so it doesn't stretch in the high G's. What is that?
Dyneema.
And what's the difference? Why don't we have that in all the other gliders? Is it more expensive?
More expensive. It's so with acro wings cost a lot more to build. There's a lot more stitching that goes into it, thicker materials, thicker lines, more lines, and they're cheaper than like any other wing. And the reason is because anybody that's stepping up to those really high-end uncertified acro wings is pretty much got to hook up anyways. So like the company Air G, you can buy direct from Air G, no importer, no dealers. And they're some of the cheapest wings you can buy, cheap by price, not by the way that they're manufactured. And that's just because that anybody that's flying like an Emily Air G is already a top level pilot. So, but yeah, it's price and cost. You can see a lot of that in the way they stitch up gliders. Like, double stitching costs twice as much hourly because they got to run everything through the machine twice. If it's single stitch, it's a lot cheaper. So.
Okay, interesting. I think that we still got a ton of questions.
And line diameter doesn't necessarily mean the line strength either. Like you can have lines from different companies that are thinner, but they're actually stronger than thicker material lines, depending on what they're made out of. So it's
Are they mostly Kevlar, or are they different in different gliders?
Most of them are Dyneema, and then the way you get the strength is by going thicker and thicker. But you can, there's different ones. Yeah. There's only about 4 companies, I think, that make glider lines. There's not too many of them.
Okay.
And then companies get their own custom color glider lines, like Ozone's purple is different than everybody else's purple. So.
Okay. I know that we got a ton of questions still. How many questions we got left? Do we have to go for another 5 hours with all the questions?
5, 6, somewhere around there.
All right, sounds good.
I'll start us off. Andrew, okay, so Tony Marzano was saying that it says that our EFI on our SkyTap is working awesome. So he's real happy with that. And
Nice.
yeah, they're real happy with that. And he's asking about the warranty on the starter. Is that covered under the year warranty?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And Jim?
Then, let's see here.
But to get that covered under warranty, don't mention that you have EFI. I won't say nothing.
Okay.
So for people that don't know EFI, can you explain EFI real quick?
Electronic fuel injection.
And what's the difference between a regular carburetor that we have and an EFI?
Oh, it's a lot more precise. So better fuel economy. I think you get a little bit more power just because everything's, carbureted's kind of the old school way, but it's a lot cheaper to go carbureted, a little easier to work on. But
So it is still a carburetor,
no, the EFI is fuel
Nope.
injection.
or it's actually fuel injection. So
Yeah, it's not cheap.
So the difference between a carburetor and EFI is the difference between a carburetor and fuel injection.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that you don't need to
EFI
change when you're flying at different heights or going to different altitudes. It still works regardless, unlike a carburetor where you have to tune it to your altitude.
Yeah, I actually had a guy that he might be the best carburetor builder like ever. He used to build them for like the jet skis that do backflips. He used to build them when all the dirt bikes were two-stroke. And I gave him an engine a couple years ago, and he put one of his special, it's called a full spectrum carb, and he put one of those on there. And I didn't really believe that it was going to make that big of a difference, but this carburetor actually produces up to 12 psi of pressure in the carburetor. So it atomizes the fuel, and it atomizes the fuel so much that the spark plug it doesn't look, it's white. It doesn't look like there's any burn on it. So you can't actually tune it by looking at the spark plug. He had these little things that he hooked up to it, and he put it in a computer, and he was sitting there tuning it that way. And he was sitting there like, we're running the engine up, and he's like, you hear that? And I'm like, no, I don't know what he's like, all right, I'm gonna do this. He's like, you hear the difference? And I'm like, no, I don't hear what you hear. It's like, I don't have a good musical ear, but that thing was ripping. And he only made one. He wasn't into the mass production. He all of his orders were custom, so it wasn't going to work out for customers and stuff. But yeah, he put a high, they call it a high pressure carburetor on there, and that thing was amazing. So it would spool up with a Helix prop just as fast as a normal Viterazzi spools up with an E prop. That's how responsive it was. So
Interesting.
Great.
All right. Next.
So Never Trust the Skinny Chef Shane wants to thank you for helping him with his pulley setup on his wing. But then he was also wondering if it's safe to do a horseshoe with a paramotor during flight. He wants to do it outside of the SIV.
which wing is it?
He never mentioned that. Hopefully
got
he
it.
will.
Yeah, if you want to ask me that, what wing you got, Shane?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a lag, and I see that he also asked another thing. Asked our guest how his pet pig is doing. So we'll ask you about that while we're trying to get Skinny Chef to let us know what kind of wing he has.
Scipio, our pet pig is doing good.
Scipio?
Yeah, Scipio africanus. We named him Scipio because there was this Carthaginian general that was just kicking the shit out of Rome in every single battle for like 8-9 years. He was just a tactical genius, and he would bring these big old elephants into battle and just run right through the Romans. And when he finally lost a battle, he lost it to this general named Scipio, and his tactic was, when the elephants charged at him, they had pigs in cages, and they took the pigs out, and they made the pigs squeal, and it was such a high-pitched squeal that it scared the elephants, and they turned around and ran the other direction and ran right through through their own army. And then went in there and finished them off. So when I first got the pig, I picked him up, and he screamed so loud, I couldn't believe. I thought they were going to call the cops on me at my house, like, because it was just like a bloody murder scream. And I was like, what am I going to name this guy? So I was like, it's got to be Scipio. But, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, he's doing good. He plays with my dogs. Like,
I know exactly what you're talking about, because when Robert was growing up, we had our little farm, and we raised a pig. So he was like a pet. but I remember, yeah, they're very loud, very obnoxious, and they
Oh yeah.
tear things up. Yes.
Yeah, it takes like 6 weeks of picking them up before they stop screaming.
Yeah,
So,
that's funny. Good story though. That's good.
yeah.
Shane has said, I think he said it's a link 2.
If he's high on the weight range, I wouldn't do it. If he's low on the weight range, it's okay. The link is one of those wings where if you're low on it, if you're low on the weight range, you can do a lot more stuff than if you're high on the weight range, it's more dynamic, and things like asymmetrics are a lot more aggressive. So it depends on how his loading is. But if you're highly loaded on that wing, I wouldn't do it.
What altitude would you suggest to be able to do something like that if you're going to be paramotoring and trying some sort of SIV away from an SIV clinic?
Minimum, absolute minimum, 1,500 feet. Because you want 500 feet to try and sort it out, and then 1,000 feet to start worrying about your reserve.
So really, the higher the better, like 5,000 feet and higher, just to be able to do the acro, just in case something screws up.
Yeah, I tell Shane, if you want to do it on the link, I'd say first just come out, just come out for like a tow or two. Like if you're stopping by, dropping a wing off or dropping a harness off, or whatever, come out there and just jump in for like a day class, and we'll do that stuff. It's better over water, it's safer over water. And if he wants to do it on his paramotor, you can fly your paramotor up, and then I'll just be on the boat. And if something goes wrong, then you still got the water. So. I don't like pushing anything when you got the tools,
Walter's asking, does the square corners of the SkyTap Angel frame pinch big boy arms? Like if you're a bigger guy, does the square corners of the cage, I guess, is what he's saying, does it pinch
Get in the way.
bigger guys?
Square corners. Like I think he means in the comfort bars.
That's
Oh,
probably what he's talking about. That's what I would think.
We have ours angled, whereas like the flat top comes out and it goes over, and then ours is angled so it's smoother.
I've never had any pinches or anything on my SkyTap Angel. I can do all sorts of weight shifts with my body and nothing pinches. So, and that's when I was flying, and I was a big boy when I was flying that too. Any other questions?
Yeah, James is wondering what topics are you going to cover in your Bad Apples workshop or seminar?
I'm gonna go over a lot about like the things to avoid, like such as negative spins or getting out of spirals. I'm gonna go over a lot on like how and where to throw your reserve. Like like some people throw down, I like to throw up and out. I have a little bit different method of throwing my reserve, so yeah, just
Cool.
Is there a difference?
It was a lot of good information last year.
yeah, kind of like the highlights of like the ground schools, what I'll go over. Like the things that are you're most likely to encounter.
Is there a difference in throwing a reserve if you are free flying or if you have a cage behind you?
Free flying, you can get a little bit more. You can drop it back behind you a little bit more and throw it. So yeah, you can throw a little further and easier without a cage.
Why doesn't all paramotors come with a quick release harness? That's what I want to know. I mean, if drowning is the number one cause for paramotor pilots that go down in water, then why don't all of them have quick release harness?
Man, I got my suspicions as why that is. I think it's personal. Between Dell's the first person to put a quick release on a frame. And there's a lot of things that people don't want to do because that's admitting that he was right. That's the only thing I can think of, because they use them in all the helicopters. Like just about every single military vehicle has one. Ultralights have them. Drag racing cars, NASCARs have them. Mudding trucks have them.
Right. I don't think it's copying at all. There's a billion designs of pens. Oh, you stole our design. We made a pen look just like that. No.
I think it's because with most other sports, nobody's in your face about it, So it really should. I think if they ever started regulating the sport, that would probably it'd be reserve that you got to have. It'd probably be quick release harness, and it would probably be netting strong enough to protect you from the cage. Like if they're going to regulate it, it's like, what else would you regulate besides like the main safety things? But for me, it's like, we all wear helmets and nobody really ever hits their head in paramotoring.
Right.
We all throw reserves and those are rare to throw, but like the netting and the quick release is kind of like, that's a no-brainer. Now, the quick release on fixed hang point frames, like the Angel or the flat top, it can make it less comfortable. Like for me, I'll give up comfort all day for safety. But the quick release harness on a swing arm frame, it doesn't give up any comfort at all. So, because when you stand up, the swing arms come down on your sides and it relieves any pressure in your groin. Whereas fixed hang points, it's the shoulder straps are pulling against the leg straps. So I can get it for like conventional frames. It's uncomfortable. Some people never fly over water ever. But for swing arm frames, like if you're flying over water, then you should definitely have one.
Well, I got a question for you. What if I have the regular ones and I got a buckle leg, and a chest and a chest? Is there somebody that can actually make these things for my particular model, even though I don't have a quick release?
Yes, I can put a quick release on any harness. So
Obviously I knew that. I was just, trying to word it to where.
if you mail it in, most of our sewing and rigging stuff takes a couple days. So we usually have it in the mail 48 hours later. But I cut off all the old buckles and put the new quick release on.
And what does that usually run?
That's $150 for our version 1. And for the one that's like you grab it and twist it is $175. And I've had people send me their free flight harnesses that have come out and done SIVs. I've actually had them send me their free flight harnesses to get the.
Man, that's a good deal. I need to send here's my harness. I want a quick release.
Yeah. And then I bring out the sewing machines to fly-ins and I pre-make all the quick releases. So I don't have to go through the whole process. Because if I just do one, it's like an hour and a half. But if I pre-make everything, I can put it on your harness in 20 minutes. So I bring that out at the
nice.
You can do it right there. And I bring my line making sewing machine. So I make lines for people right there. And yeah.
Just gonna have to drive about 30 hours to get to one of these fly-ins that you go to, I'm sure. Well, besides Florida, that would be a little closer, I guess.
So you're going to the Bad Apples fly-in?
Oh yeah.
Any other flying that you're going to go to with your equipment?
Swanee.
I'm sorry?
Swanee.
So you're going to do Swanee and Bad Apples this year, yes?
Yep. And then I'm contemplating Moonshiners. And then, you have that one that's coming up that Skinny Chef was talking about. I'll probably go out to that one and bring all my stuff out.
Fly it for gauge. And
then there's one I want to try up north. God, who's putting that one on? There's one that takes place at the end of summertime, middle summertime, like right after Bad Apples. I want to go up there to that one this year. Dave Purden flying. That's the one.
That's an awesome fly-in.
I've heard about that one, and that's East Coast, so
you will love it.
All right. Any other questions in the super chat?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, David Wolf. Well, first of all, I guess I missed Dave Ruff's question. How do you get a student to do a nose down? They scare me to death, but I want to face that fear.
First we do the spirals, and we do them like the way that we judge how, like a 5, we do like 5 gears in a car. Like 1 is just a mellow spiral, 5 is flat down. So what we do is we bring you up to 3, and then we make sure you can back off to 2. And then we make sure you can exit straight from 3. And then we go to 4. make sure you can exit straight from 4, make sure you can downshift from 4 to 2. And then usually on flat downs, we just go flat down for just a second or like half a rotation. So we hang out at 4 and then we just bump the nose flat down and then we exit. We don't like to hang out at flat down.
It is an amazing experience to do a flat down spiral. And the G forces are insane. You just normally don't feel the G forces when you're flying paramotors in a flat down spiral, and it will wig you out for a moment.
Yeah. You gotta learn that. You gotta learn how to exit. And you know, the other thing is like, you know, you can do like a gear 4 where you're spiraling around and you're pulling some G's, like a good amount. And then if you actually add outside brake and a little bit more inside brake and keep it at like the angle of 4, you lose G's because you're actually slowing the whole glider down. And but you're maintaining the steep spiral as well. So we make sure that you know like the different methods on how to slow it down and how to back off and how to exit. So
There was another question in here, and it was asking about, had anybody ever blacked out in the SIV?
no, but once you go around past like 3 rotations and then I start calling out reserve, sometimes people freeze up or they don't listen, and they'll go around like another 4 rotations and then they'll throw. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, he might, you know, he's getting there, you know. So there's been times where I'm like, guy's not reacting to what I'm saying, he's spiraling, and then the reserve comes out. But there's been, I think, 2 times where I was like, you know, I'm screaming reserve, you know, and it comes out and they're not quite aware of, you know, they're like, yeah, you know, and I'm like, man, that was too many rotations, dude. Like what took so long? And they're like, well, I was trying to get out of it. But yeah, that's happened, but nobody's blacked out because we don't use gliders that are that powerful. Like we like to use real safe gliders so you can do some crazy and stupid stuff and it's going to save you rather than pushing it. Usually when you get to those gliders that can pass you out, you're very far along that process. Like we've had some people take out some hot gliders, but they were, you know, not first SIV. They're usually excellent, or they're always excellent pilots, and they always know how to handle themselves in that stuff. But we discuss everything before you do it. So if you do something that we didn't discuss, that's when I start flaring up, you know. But if anybody came to me and they're like, yeah, dude, I'm going to take this hot wing and then do four flat. And I'm like, no. Like you get 1. Like if you're going to touch the nose down, you get 1. And after that, I'm in your ear telling you to get out of it. And then if you go around 2 more times, and I'm assuming that things are getting too hot too quick for you, and I'll start saying reserve throw. So.
That's interesting. Dewey Milstead said, where would you recommend mounting a reserve for a trike buggy?
On your side. If you can get it like in front of you, but don't put a reserve here. They say after 4 Gs, you can't lift your hands up. I was told this by an F-18 pilot. So once you pour full Gs and you bring your hands down, you can't get them back up. And if the reserve is behind your head and you're in that situation, you might not be able to get it. Plus you can't see it. Like if it's on the side, you can look over. If it's behind you, then yeah,
I think Jim told us that his paramotor allowed for a reserve to be up behind him, and that's the first time I've ever heard of a reserve being up by your head. In your experience, how many models actually will have a place above your head to have a reserve?
Well, there's a couple of them, like Simplify does that. There's not too many of them though. It's not a good spot for them. You know, you can't see it, and the G thing is the big problem. Now, it does do good for weight distribution because the higher the weight is, the lighter it feels on your back, but I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, Jim said that there also was a big drag, like a wind drag, so it kind of slowed it down a little bit.
Yeah, it's blocking your prop. You know, your prop needs to eat, so you're cutting off the air from it at the top. So
interesting. Jim, was there any other questions in the super chat?
I think we've got pretty much everything. I mean, there's a lot in here, so we definitely could have missed something.
Yeah, I'm sure we did, man. They were burning it up. Plus, I've got 2 or 3 chats going on the side here too. So there's a question from David Wolf. It was, since we learned full stalls on traditional gliders, what happens if we need to stall on our reflex wings? What do we do?
So I would stuff it, hold it, and throw. I would stall it and then throw from stall. Like, especially if it's a hot wing. Like if it's like a spider or something, you can get out of it. You might be in a riser twist, you probably take a frontal. But if I went in on something like a real hot wing and I went negative, rather than finding out what's going to happen when it reopens, I would stuff them. I would stuff the brakes, put them both in one hand, and throw my reserve.
Cool. And then Racing with Paramotor says, what brand model quick release buckle is used for the version 2?
I don't know the model brand. It's the same one they use in the NASCAR. It's rated for 5,720 pounds.
Okay.
So
I see. Never Trust Skinny Chef Shane said, Andy told me to throw a reserve, but I didn't. And I was able to work it out. But when I landed, he said, great job. But next time, if I say throw, you better throw. He said, true story.
Mm-hmm.
Shane wants to know if you're going to meet up with him Saturday so he can drop his wing off for his yearly. Andy.
maybe where we meeting up?
At the farm,
My farm?
I guess. That's what he said. Guess so.
It's funny.
So if I wanted to send in my wing, what address do I send it, and where do I go to look at all the different things that you do? You got a website, I assume?
Yeah, we got 3 of them. We got the SkyTap Paramotors for the engines, Skylab SIV for the SIVs, and then Paraglider inspection. But yeah, you sent it to 726 Lithia Pinecrest Road. Just include a piece of paper with your name, your information, so I know how to get a hold of you in case I find something. Because when we're going through the tests, the first thing we do is the porosity test and the ripstop test. And if either one of those fail, then we just stop the test, and then we only charge you $50. Because there's no sense in going through the rest of the wing because the canopy's shot. And then the next thing we do after that is the line brake test. And then if that fails, then we'll call you up. Like if you only have like 20% porosity left on your wing and then your lines are bad, then you probably want to think about retiring your glider rather than replacing the line set to only fly it for like another 40 hours. So, yes, you want to include that piece of paper. So if I find something goofy, I can get a hold of you. And we can either order a new line set, or we can, if you're like, nope, continue with the whole test,
So in your opinion, and your professional opinion, obviously, how long does a wing last, and what will cause it to be destroyed quicker, and what do you do to preserve it as long as possible?
Well, I mean, you can have a wing that'll last 15 years. Like I have a wing that's, I think, 16 years old, and it passed with like 300 on the porosity meter. I couldn't believe it. But it's a heavyweight material wing, which lasts a lot longer than a lightweight material wing. So it depends. The worst thing for your wing is sand, or second is salt water. Water is not good for the wing, but if you dry it out properly, like in the shade and quickly, then it'll be fine. If you get your wing wet and then you store it in a hot environment, that'll destroy it very quickly. If you're flying, it's kind of like a car. If you drive it really hard, you're going to wear out things quicker. You wear out the canopy quicker, you wear out the lines a lot quicker. But there's a big difference between lightweight wings and heavy material wings. Like I prefer the heavy material wings because they hold up twice as long. But all the real high-end competition wings and stuff, they're all lightweight. So it's going to wear out a little quicker. Plus, it's going to be a smaller wing. You know, so if you're flying like a 18, that's going to wear out a lot quicker than if you're flying a 25, just because there's so much load distributed over a smaller area. So there's a million factors that go into it. Yeah.
So what can you do to make sure that your wing that you have right now will last you for many years in the future?
Don't store it in your car, store it inside your house. And then if you launch in the morning and it gets some moisture on it, or if you pack it up and it's wet, then when you get home, just kind of open the bag, and you don't have to spread the wing out, but just kind of like let the wing air out, let it get that moisture out of there.
So a good thing to have in that particular room when you're trying to do it, maybe having like a dehumidifier.
No, your air conditioning will do it. You just don't want the water sitting there and like pressing, you don't want like standing water. But typically, if you just open it up a little bit, the air conditioning will suck it right out.
What's the problem with storing the wing in the car? I'm just wondering.
Hot.
Oh, okay. It's cold right now, so because my wing's out my car, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah. The materials are temperature sensitive for sure.
Okay.
And packing up your wing matters. Like if you take the time to pack it up nice, it will last longer. So because like a lot of where you lose the porosity is sometimes it's the protective coating coming off, but also like the fabric actually starts to like kind of separate a little bit. You can't see it, but that's where the air comes in. And it's just the other thing, like lightweight materials, the ripstop squares are 4 times bigger. Like a heavyweight material glider will have like a square like this, and then a lightweight will be 4 times bigger. And it just doesn't hold the material together like woven as tight, and it'll start to separate a little bit quicker.
So like a single skin wing wouldn't last as long as a heavier traditional wing.
Right.
Generally.
Generally, like the easier they are to kite, the less long they last. Like the ones that are really easy to kite, a lot of times those are like super lightweight material, and those will wear out a lot quicker than a heavyweight material. And then you have the wings that are like the older ones. Some of the ones that are like 15 years old, and they're built out of such thick material that they're still good because they just built them a lot tougher with like they weren't going as much for the weight. Like the lightweight stuff becomes more popular as time goes on, just because it's lightweight material wings actually outperform. You can take the same wing, and if it's lightweight material, it'll outperform the same wing that's normal material. So that's why they like a lot of gliders, they make the underside a lightweight material because it's not as exposed to the sun. But there's like some phenomenon where the lightweight materials for some reason are faster. And there's that's weird. And then this is weird too. Bigger gliders. This isn't true for paramotoring, but in paragliding, when you're inside the weight range, bigger gliders are faster. So like if you and I had the same wing, Sean, and we're both right in the middle of the weight range, but you had a bigger one than me, but we're still right in the middle, your wing's going to be faster than me. So like the big guys have an advantage in competitions on bigger wings. Like the Enzo, like the wing you basically need to place in any paragliding competition, the large Enzo is 3 kilometers an hour faster than all the other sizes. Same wing, same loading.
Right. You heard it here, guys. Grandpa has a bigger one than Andrew Fuller.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Dave, there's one other question. Two others, but David Wolf, this is referring to the stall. He's saying, what about a drift air? So are you saying there's no saving it?
Yeah, stall it and throw it.
Stall it and throw it.
Yeah. Definitely on a drift air.
And then Fly Swamper was, you had mentioned that, a calendar, a glider can last, many years or whatever, but he's wondering if there's a magic number of hours.
Typically, like it's different for free flight and motoring. Till the canopy goes, it's hard to quantify it. Like I can pull wings out that are like I have that 16-year-old wing that still passes on excellent with porosity. And then like I failed a couple wings with porosity that were 3-4 years old. Just depends on how it's the beach that really kills them. But it depends on how long you let it sit out in the sun and stuff. But 10 years is what I'd say. So like with reserves, the rule on reserves is after 10 years, you get a new reserve. Just from the material starting to go.
Even though it hasn't been opened or deployed or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, no matter what. Yeah, 10. And also you don't really want a 10-year-old reserve because the technology in the last under 10 years is so much better, right? Like, 10, 12 years ago, the rounds used to oscillate coming down. Now the rounds, they barely oscillate. Whereas that's why they came out with squares, because the squares stopped the oscillation process, but then the rounds got better. So just from a technology, yeah, from like a technology standpoint, you want the newer stuff, but from a material standpoint, the rule of thumb with everybody is after 10 years, you get a new reserve. So
that's also like, if your tires, most places are not going to patch up a tire that's older than 10 years. It has to be under the 10 years. So 10 years, we're talking about plastic and rubber. It doesn't last that long, and it's supposed to save your life. So, why mess with something that's supposed to save your life?
now I've been told that they can actually make glider material that will last forever. They just don't. No, sorry to break that to you guys.
Well, but like you said too. Now imagine having a glider that lasted forever, that had 2010 technology.
Right, you wouldn't want.
Yeah, you still wouldn't want that, even though it would work fine.
Right.
So, I understand. Any other questions? Did we miss everything, or do we miss anything else in the super chat, or we get everybody?
Looks like we got it. What was it? See, racing with paramotors. We got that brand model. The meet up at the farm. Yeah, I think. What about drift? Yeah, we covered it.
Excellent. Any other questions for Andrew from the panel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, go for it, Linda.
Okay, so Andy, have you done much trike flying?
Not much.
Have you done it before though?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but probably my last 3 times on a trike was flying somebody else's stuff. Where they're like,
Okay.
"Hey man, try out the new trike," and I jump on it.
So you can do tandems on the trikes if you want.
Oh yeah, no, trike's a lot easier, especially with tandems.
Okay, so you prefer trike tandem as to paraglider tandems.
No, I prefer foot launch because it's more fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
but-
really? I would
For-
not be good at that.
Yeah,
Running full speed.
you'd be fine. Yeah, you'd be fine.
That's why the trike, you just, when I went on my first, trike tandem in May. And yeah, you just, you sit in that seat and then just hold on, when you go up there, just grab onto those bars right there. And I was good to go. But I don't know about as far as like the free flight, sitting in that little seat.
The only where everybody messes up, and the key is you have to expect it. On foot launch tandems, probably, I'd say minimum 6 out of 10 people will try and sit down on takeoff, and they'll try and sit down on landing. Landing's not a big deal, but takeoff, it can stop the launch and you have to restart. Or sometimes if you're far enough into the launch, if they sit down, they can't quite get down to the ground because they're flying enough, and then you can pull it off. But it doesn't matter what you tell them, they'll do it. Like if somebody's a sitter, they're a sitter. The only thing I actually tell people in my tandem speech is less than a minute, and most of it is just keep running and don't sit down. That's virtually the only thing I tell somebody. It's like, I'm going to pull the wing up, and then we're going to turn into the wind, which is that direction, and then don't sit down. And even if that's the only thing I say, it's still 50-50 they're going to sit down. That's the only problem. And it doesn't do anything. If you get a strong cage, you don't break anything. You just like, they sit down and you're like, hold on, get up, Sometimes you get them to stand back up and you can just keep running again. But
Racing with Paramotors asked, what model or brand, I don't know if he's already asked you that, what brand is the quick release buckle for the version 2? of your
Oh, yeah.
quick release?
It's the NASCAR one. I'm not sure which one it's called.
There you go, the NASCAR one, racing with
Yeah.
paramotors. Perfect.
Did we ask Deweese's question about the reserve mount? What do you recommend mount? Where do you recommend mounting a
Yeah, we did that one.
Okay, good.
Side.
I think we got it then.
Yeah, I think we're caught up. Finally.
Oh, we lost our host. Well, man.
He
Step
run off
out
the
for a
see,
minute.
he's going to get his glider out of the car. I need to do the same thing.
I know,
He's like,
right?
oh shit.
He's gonna send it.
He's
We were talking
back.
about you, Sean. Man, it's been an awesome show, Andy. I
Yeah.
mean,
I learned a lot. I mean, I'm
did.
glad we do this so you can learn something every day, you know?
Yeah. No, this is
Yeah, thank
great.
you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Learned
Thanks,
a lot.
Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good one.
Well, I
All
guess
right.
now I can share you with Robert. I told Robert, you can't have him on your show till I have him on my show. Yes, Mom.
yeah.
So,
we had an understanding.
so can you tell us a little bit about, or can you tell us how to get up with you for all your different businesses? And we will send you off since it's after 9 o'clock my time, Central Standard Time.
You can contact me on Facebook. You can get a hold of me through one of the websites. To be honest with you, I like when people call me. Then we're not messaging back and forth. The phone rings, they tell me what they need or what they're looking for. We ask all our questions, we get it out of the way real quick, or we can spend an hour talking. But preferred if you give me a ring. But yeah, Facebook is easy. You can email me through any one of my websites.
And for people that are listening to this right now, they're like, okay, I want to call up Andy right now. What is your phone number?
813-391-0237.
So now you got his number, 867-5309. You'll remember that forever. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, bud. And thank you for being on it every single year. So that means that on our 5th year, you're going to have to come back again and tell us about your next adventure, your next business, and the next thing that you're going to be doing.
Yeah, sure thing, bud.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate you. And you're more than welcome to leave if you need to. We're going to go ahead and say our goodbyes to the world, and then we're Audi 5000. So thank you very much. We definitely appreciate you, buddy. And all your
Yes.
links are down below. So if you want to get up with Andrew, just use any of the links down below. Excellent. All right. So our official sponsor is Jim from Canada A. You can find him over at carepp.com. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what you can do for us. And I think there's a discount code if you mention somebody's name.
Yeah, sure. I can help you with all your printing. And at this time, I don't know how you would save more money. I mean, Canadian dollar is in the tank. So I don't know if I should give anybody the PPG Grandpa discount. My, oh my. You guys are already getting 30% off just in exchange rate. But if you use the PPG Grandpa exchange discount, you'll get an additional 10% off. And also, we're going to do a spinning wheel of things in probably in about a month or maybe a little bit longer for a Salton Sea fly-in calendar. So anybody who goes to ppgcalendar.com and signs up for the website will get entered into that draw for the calendar. So if you go to ppgcalendar.com and sign up, you'll get entered in for that draw once it actually comes about.
That's cool.
Hey, do you do t-shirts?
Do I do t-shirts?
I asked you first.
Every once in a while.
Do you?
I can do them. I don't do them very often, but I can do them.
What
I have
was
all the
Andy's What was Andy's phone number again? I think Bill H was like, somebody write it down, and I didn't get to type it in fast enough. So
813
Yep.
391 0237.
0327. Got
No,
it.
no, 0237.
Oh, 0237.
Yeah.
All right, there we
All
go.
right, Scuba Steve, say it again real quick, since you got a louder microphone.
We got Andy Fuller. His phone number is 813-391-0237. Give him a call if you need to have your wing check, repacked, or whatever else you need to know. SIV, there you go. He's got it all. Call him.
And it really was an 8675309. So Jim, so if we go to ppgcalendar.com and we sign up for a free account, when it's time to get that Salton Sea calendar, you're going to be doing a spinning wheel of winning things for a while, right? So we're going to do that for a couple of Mondays after the Salton Sea.
You betcha. So it'll be a little while because we're going to get to all the, and it'll also be the same site where you can submit photos for the Salton Sea fly-in. And then we'll do a contest, and top 12 pictures will be put into that. But yes, anybody who signs up now will get in on that draw.
So let me ask you something real quick. What if they go to carepp.com and sign up for a free account? Does that a double one? Is that another name that can go on that spinning wheel of winning things?
They might be extremely confused because they won't figure out how to sign in or sign up.
Gotcha. All right. Just trying to help you out with getting more people on your site.
They'll be like, Jim, where the heck do I sign up?
So I like that. Also too, so if you go over to paramotorarkansas.com, sign up for a free account. We'll also add all of your names to a second spinning wheel of winning things to get a free calendar.
Sounds good.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you very much for everything that you do for us, Jim. And obviously you have maple syrup smelling money up there. And if you haven't been to Canada, you better go there and sniff some money. And then go over, check out carepp.com or check out his crazy shenanigans at careppg.com. We also got Will Fly from Will Fly PPG with a puppy on his lap.
Yeah, my dog, my wiener. Yep, little black wiener.
This is a family show. We're not going to show wieners on your lap. Come on now. So you do just the tip. You do amazing videos. How do we get up with you on your YouTube? And what do you have in store for the next couple of videos?
Well, just last week was just the tip 6.0. Next week or the week after will be just the tip 7.0. So working on it. And yeah, you can go to youtube.com/willfly or just go to willflyppg.com. And every video I make is made 100% by yours truly. So yeah, check it out. And if you like what you see, subscribe and hit the bell notification, as Sean says.
Absolutely, hit that bell notification. So you're saying that you don't have an AI computer person?
I don't pay anybody to do any part of my videos. None.
That is awesome. And you do amazing jobs on your videos too. So if you haven't been there, make sure you go to willflyppg.com, check out his videos, hit that bell notification because he puts out some good stuff.
Made with love.
All right, we also got Scuba Steve, and he helps us out in the background too. So how you doing, Scuba Steve? And I hear that you got a podcast on Friday nights. What's that all about?
I do a vaping show on Fridays. If you look up Scuba Vapes, you can find me pretty easy. I need to get with Will. I'm gonna have to buy a van and get Will to decorate my van because his looks freaking awesome. I saw that van, I was like, man, I need something like that. It looks great. But yeah, or you can go paramotordude.com. That'll bring you over to my YouTube channel. I'm live every Friday night, 8 to 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. There you go.
All right. Thank you very, very much. And of course, we got Linda Anderson. She's our PR girl. Do you have your pom-poms today, or are they stuck in a box away from the cat?
Yeah. Now that I have my kitty, the pom-poms, she would go crazy. because she would think it's for her and she'd be like all over, the noise and everything. So
Well,
but
that'd
she's
be a great
really-
little video. You do your pom pom. She's like,
yeah, I know it'd be entertaining, wouldn't it? Oh my gosh. Now this was really fun tonight. I really had a good time. Monday nights are always cool, but there was even cooler because Andy Fuller was with us tonight. Thank you so much, Andy. We appreciate you taking the time and hanging with us for a few hours. And thank you, chatters and listeners. And I really appreciate all of you. Much love, much love. And you can find me on Thursday nights on paraglidingtalk.com with my awesomest son, Robert Michaels. And I'm usually hanging in the chat or in the Zoom, how I am. I crash his show every Thursday, but it's a lot of fun. So y'all enjoy. You have a great week, and I'll see you on the next one.
sounds good.
I'm like
good.
really not good at this.
Sounds good. Hey, Andrew Fuller, do you have your own YouTube channel? If you do, how do we get to it to see your flying shenanigans?
SkyTap Paramotors. I don't really put too much stuff on there. I edit all my own videos too, and I don't like doing it, so I just don't do it.
Makes sense. Will Fly, you guys do a podcast on Tuesdays. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, man. If you want, it's called Paramotor Hangouts, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Shane, Mark, and myself get together. We're going to talk flying stuff and other paramotor related things. Just go to ppgshane.com. It'll take you right there.
Absolutely. And you can go to your favorite podcasting app because recently they've been uploading their audio to their podcasting app, their podcast. So what do we search for? Paramotor Hangout, or what do we search for?
Paramotor Hangout, Apple Podcast, Google, Spotify, you name it. Should be on there.
Excelente. Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining us. I cannot believe that we've gone through 2.5 hours of show.
Yeah.
And
That's amazing. It didn't
just
feel
like
like
that.
that.
Just amazing. And
Couldn't pick his brain enough. I think we need to pick it another couple of hours.
I think so too. He's
Seriously,
like, well, I need to go home.
The chatters love you, man. I mean, it's like they were burning up with the questions. It was hard to keep up with everything, So yeah, great guest.
Yeah,
absolutely. And if you want to get up with Andy or any of his businesses, like I said, I put the links down below. Make sure you go there and check them out. As a matter of fact, click them all, check them all out, and check out the SkyTap Paramotors and the Spartans. Check out the SIV clinics, and of course, when you're ready to get your wing inspected, make sure you send it to him. All right. Anybody have any last words before we say goodbye to everybody this wonderful Monday night? Nada?
all good.
I guess
We're all
everybody's
like,
everybody's ready to go to bed. I know I am. I'm an old grandpa. I'm ready to go to
What
bed.
do you say?
So.
Word? Last word.
Word. Oh yeah, real quick about Word. We also got a podcast on Wednesday nights, paramotorgirl.com. Don't forget that one. Well, y'all have a wonderful evening. If you guys stay here, we're going to go say goodbye to everybody live stream, and we'll chat here for a couple minutes and, tell the secrets that, 42. We're going to tell the secrets of the universe, 42 and beyond. All right. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Don't forget, fly safe.
Chatters,
And time flies just like paramotor pilots. So stay safe, and we'll see you next time on PPG Grandpa's Paramotor Podcast, clearproptv.com and paratalk.org. Peace. I love that. Peace. And stopping the live stream. So we stopped the live stream, but we still have our audio right now. This is for the audio that goes, that people will listen to. So now we're just audio real quick. So we try every week to do a passphrase or a passcode or something that people could win instantly if we remember. What is a good passphrase or passcode or something that we can give something away next week on?
What was this pig's name?
Yeah. What's the pig's name?
Scipio.
How do you spell that?
Ooh, Skipio.
Skipio. So that will be the passcode, if we remember, next week to give away something for
Yeah.
free. So make sure you write that down. Skipio, Scipio. I like that. So
Okay.
once again, thank you so much.
It's SCIPIO.
Oh,
Oh.
S-
SCIPIO. Okay, that looks more like it's going to say scorpion or something when you write it down.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how many people have never heard that name before. Like I actually,
Me neither.
yeah, my buddy has a friend and his name is Skip. And I'm like, oh, is that short for Scipio? And he's like, no.
That is neat. I like that, Scipio. So you can spell it SKIPIO or SCIPIO next week to win in the super chat. So make sure you write that down, and we will. I don't know. We'll give away something, either a travel mug or a chase cam. Sound good? All right. For everybody that's still listening to us on your favorite podcasting app, we definitely appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week on PPG Grandpa's Paramotor Podcast.